based on Allah, so it's the Muslim law, or the law of Allah, and in America it's the Judaic-Christian law. So it would be well to know something about the foundations of Judaism and Christianity. First of all, Judaism is made up of at least 7 different ancient Semitic cults, about 7 different ones. And they all came together, and today we call them all together Judaism. But actually Judaism is nothing more than about 7 different Semitic cults. One was called the solar cult, or the worshippers of the sun. One was the lunar cult, the worshippers of the moon. One of the cults was the stellar cult, worshippers of the stars. One was the Saturnalian, or the worship of the planet Saturn. And then there was one that was called the volcano cult, the worship of the volcano. There were many others, but those were the major ones. And all of them came together one day and became known as Judaism. And out of Judaism came Old Testament and eventually Christianity. But there's a lot of history in both the Old Testament and Judaism has not been told. I'll show you some of it today. Again, our laws in this country that we're supposedly living under a law is based on the old Judaic law. That's why we have a judicial system under the Judaic law. And Moses is the lawgiver. Consequently, if you get in trouble in this country, they say you broke the law. You're a law breaker, like Moses drew down and broke the law. We're told that Moses took the Israelites out in the morning to pick manna from heaven, the manna from heaven. The word manna simply means in Hebrew, what is it? Because they didn't know what it was. All they know, they were told, go out and pick it. And they eat it.
It's interesting you say that, if I can make this point. The mascot for the Olympics, his name is what is it? What is it? That's right. That's right. That's the mascot's name for the Olympics. Is what is it?
What is it?
That's it. That's it. All right, go ahead.
Yeah. Run that by me again.
No, the Olympic mascot.
Yeah.
The name of it is what is it? But they call it is it now. But it started off as what is it?
That's right.
And it went to what is it? Then it went from what is it? Is it?
Sure did.
That's right. So literally, his name is Manna. His name is Manna.
Okay.
Oh, I think that's great. You find out what manna really means. What is it means? I'll tell you something. Anyway, Moses leads the children of Israel out in the morning dew, the Bible says, and they were out picking manna from heaven. Well, first of all, manna from heaven is a scripture, but I gotta enlarge it. In the Bible it says, and when the dew that lay was gone up, behold, upon the face of the wilderness there was a small round thing, as small as hoarfrost on the ground. And it was called manna. And when the children saw it, they said to one another, it is manna, for they did not know what it was. So it's called manna, and it means what is it. But the point I'm bringing out is that it was a small round thing that grew in the dew in the morning, in the dew in the mist in the morning. The small round thing grew. And here were the characteristics of manna. In Hebrew, what is it? And its 7 characteristics were, it was small, round, flaky, wafer, sweet, hard, melted, and it was from heaven. So it's a small, round, wafer-like thing that was sweet and rather hard, and it was called manna, or the food of the gods. And we trace back the word manna not to Hebrew, but to the ancient Semitic word in books like, and I have about 7 different books on this subject, but this is 2 of them. One book is called The Sacred Mushroom and the Cross, because we find that the word mana is traced back to the old Semitic word for mushrooms. Here we have the book. Is a study of the nature and origins of Christianity within the fertility cults of the ancient Near East by John Allegro. The Sacred Mushroom, Key to the Door of Eternity. The search for the secret plant of the ancients, used to send the mind to another world and into the future. There is such a fact, it is a factual truth, that certain mushrooms are not just hallucinogenic, but they do release in the human brain a spiritual ability to connect to the God force. And that's a fact. So it's not just hallucinogenics that we're just seeing visions. There are certain mushrooms that do have that quality that allows the human mind to open up and connect with the universal God force. And so that's a pretty heavy-duty experience for when you get on certain mushrooms. You start seeing some strange things, but them things are real. The yogi is one of them. Okay, so what we're talking about here is the book, The Sacred Mushroom and the Cross, showing how the connection between the sacred mushroom and the cross of Christianity. And many of the early church fathers were totally into the use of mana, or the mushroom. Here is the high priest of Israel, and it's important that we show you his headdress. Here's the headdress of the high priest of Israel. He's wearing a mushroom. Beautiful, right? Mushroom head.
So that's where they get that from, getting the hay.
That's it. Exactly.
Getting the hay.
Yeah. Trump is wearing a woman's robe, but he's a teacher. He's the teacher. Yeah. He's the teacher, and he's teaching people, but from the use of the hallucinogenic mushroom. But that's important for you to understand why the mushroom and the connection between the symbolism of what he's wearing, the symbolism. Mushrooms have always been worn in the Middle East. That's a rather big one there.
That looks like an opium pot.
That's the whole pot there. Now here is a convention of mushroom heads. Here's another bunch.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a bunch of mushroom heads. Here's a small committee of mushrooms. There's another small committee of mushroom heads. This guy looks like he's been on it for a while. He is totally quiet and in another world. But he's holy. The only thing holy about him is his underwear. There they are, mushroom heads. And almost all the mushrooms always had the female vagina, the female opening, because the oval of the female, because drugs were always connected with sex. Here's another one. There's one of the wise men. Is that a mushroom on his head or what?
Like a pot.
Mushroom, all right.
Mushroom. Now, volcanoes, like any other impressive and fearful aspect of nature, volcanoes have been the object of worship for human beings from the earliest Stone Age. So now we're talking about volcanoes. Volcanoes have always been an object of worship in the ancient world. The reason why is because volcanoes represented sexual generation. It was God's holy mountain, the holy mountain of fire. and it had to do with the sexual generation of fire in the human body. That's where the word pyramid comes from. Pyramid comes from pyra, mid. Pyra means fire, and mid means middle. There's the fire in the middle. And so the volcano was very important in the ancient Middle Eastern religions. That was a symbol of the cult, the volcano cult. Here, the original Yahweh seems to have begun as a volcano god. Mount Sinai, where Moses encounters him, was the seat of the Midianite god who formerly dwelt in the volcano. I think I've got... He was also identified with the local moon god Sin, after whom the mountain was named. That's where we get Mount Sinai. Sinai comes from the Mount Sin, and Sin was the name of the moon god who was connected to the volcano worship. So Sinai comes from Mount Sin, the moon god Sin. The appearance of Yahweh in Exodus 13:21 says that Yahweh appears as a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. And here's the important part. The word volcano comes from the Latin volcano god Vulcan or Vulcanus. It's derived from the old Cretan deity of Vulcanus. So, the word volcano comes from the Latin volcano god Vulcan or Vulcanus, derived from the old Cretan deity Vulcanus. Okay? Here is Vulcan, the volcano god. And you will see his lightning bolts. And this is sexual generation, the fire of sexual generation, the lightning bolts, and the hammer, of course, was the hammer that was used in communism. It's the hammer and sickle. That comes from the old worship of Thor, or the volcano god who has the hammer. But here is Vulcan with his thunderbolts.
Would that also be associated with a gavel?
Oh yeah, the gavel. The gavel comes directly from the thunderbolt and the hammer, which is the hammer of Thor.
The gavel, the hammer, the judge used.
The judges use. Yeah. Here is a footnote from the Old Testament in the book of Job. Here's one of the footnotes in the book of Job. Thus, thunder is called kolat in Hebrew. Thunder is called in Hebrew something called kolat. It means voices, for it is considered the voice of God. So therefore, when you read that the different prophets and the ancient ones heard the voice of God, the voice was kolat in Hebrew, and it means thunder. Well, at that rate, we've all heard God talk. Okay? I heard him, just recently out in California. Didn't say much, but I heard him. Here it is again. Closer. Thunder is called kolat, of voices, for it is considered the voice of God. Here is another footnote. I've got a lot of these footnotes, but this is just another one. It says from Job 37, the storm, the storm and the clouds is God's tent, gathered as the thunder, which is, quote, the voice of Yahweh roars. They descend and God shoots the arrows of his lightning. So we're talking about God who has thundering, his voice, the voice of Yahweh is thunder, and he descends and God shoots the arrows of his lightning. And from the Hebrew Tograms, the word the mist is translated literally his smoke. So now we have smoke and lightning and thunder. And his thunderbolts, again in 37, his thunderbolts. The linear correct translation is God thunders wonderfully with his voice. So what we got here is the God of the volcano with the thunder and the smoke and the lightning. That's what you get with volcanoes, a lot of thunder and lightning and smoke. And that's God. when he gets PO'd. That's it. God gets mad, that's what it looks like right there. Now that's why Moses can go up into the mountain and see a burning bush, because the whole mountain is burning actually. Yeah. And when you see Moses comes down with his face glowing, well, your face would glow too if you get up there. So you have to understand where all of this is coming from. Now here we have at Mount Sinai, Jehovah performed signs. The mountain trembled and smoked all over, and millions saw and heard proof that what Moses had made known in God's name was the word of God. There is the children of Israel going to Mount Sinai. That look like a volcano to you? Here, Jehovah led the sons of Israel to a mountain named Sinai in the desert. There he gave them his law. Now we're talking about the law again. And we're all under the law. What law? Well, the Mosaic law. God's law. Okay? Well, what does that look like to you? Does that look like a volcano to you? And this is all from Hebrew and Christian publications. I got a whole stack of them. But I just given you a few, just to show you a few. That looks like a volcano. Here is from the Hebrew Jewish Encyclopedia, the Encyclopedia Judaica. The Hebrew Encyclopedia has the main holidays. Here's Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Hanukkah, Feast of Purim, Passover, and here on the bottom right is the Feast of the Giving of the Law. Is the Feast of the Giving of the Law. That's from down here on this one. This is from the Encyclopedia. That look like a volcano to you? And that's from the Encyclopedia Judaica, Jewish Encyclopedia. So there's the thunderbolts. There's the lightning and the thunder. And you see behind the lightning, you'll see the outline of the sun. See the sun behind it with the spokes? Then you see the lightning, and there's the volcano.
That's interesting. They call it the Feast of the Giving of the Law,
right,
as the Feast of the First Fruits.
Yeah.
Now we've incorporated one, the Feast of First Fruits called Kwanzaa.
Here's another one on Mount Sinai. There's Mount Sinai. Does that look like a volcano to you with the thunderbolts? Here's Moses throwing down the law, God's 10 commandments. What's that look like behind you? Does that look like a volcano to you? That's the sun coming up behind it. Here's Mount Sinai and the children of Israel running away because they got scared when God talks. What we're talking about is the volcano God. Here's Moses. He didn't not only went up to Mount Sinai, he jumped in the volcano.
No wonder they couldn't find him.
Yeah. And his face was glowing.
Right.
Hell yeah, you go up and jump in the volcano and see your face don't glow.
Second degree burn.
Hell, everything on you is going to burn. Glow. Okay. Now, remembering, of course, that the volcano god was Vulcan or Vulcanus, okay? Here's part 2. Now, here is the benediction symbol. This is the symbol in the Catholic Church when the Pope blesses you. The blessing is like this. The blessing of you with the cross, the sign of the cross. And the reason why Catholics make the sign of the cross on their chest is because Pharaoh made the sign of the cross, and when he was buried, was buried with the sign of the cross on his chest. So therefore they make the sign of the cross on their chest. But here is the benediction symbol, which is a symbol in Hebrew in the Jewish religion to bless you. If the Catholic Church anoints you and bless you this way. But here's the way the Hebrew or the rabbis will bless you. If you're a Jew, the rabbis bless you with this symbol from God. Okay. Here it is again. Now, just hold on. We're going to get to it in just a minute. Don't run ahead of me. Don't run ahead of me. Dumb as I am, I ain't that stupid. So I'm just making the point here that this is a benediction symbol in Hebrew. And here we have the Pentateuch scroll crown. Pentateuch scroll crown with the hands raised in the priestly blessing. There it is again, the priestly blessing. Okay. Here in Los Angeles at the synagogue, you will see the mushroom head, and he looks like he's really been on it. Yeah, he's been on it pretty heavy here. Mushroom head, and he's blessing you with Pentateuch blessing. Here is another one. Indeed, the Lord is high, yet he looks upon the lowly. Of course the Lord is high.
You know the mushroom.
Eat mushrooms all day, even the Lord's going to get high. Yeah. Lord is high. Is that why they call them high priests?
High
Now here's the rabbi at the synagogue with the giving the blessing. Okay. Now that's why Mr. Spock is the Vulcan.
Okay.
And he's also local.
That's right. That's right. See the Hebrew? The service is closed with the benediction. The Lord bless thee and keep thee. The Lord make his face shine upon thee. Here it is. And that's why Mr. Spock is called the Vulcan. And guess who runs Hollywood? The Vulcan. Would be a bit surprised if they had something to do with banking too. Banking and Hollywood and all that make-believe. Like they make believe you're free in a country that you're free. That's just make-believe though. Don't you go believe in that. Right. So that takes care of that. Now we have the Ark. Raiders of the Lost Ark. Remember Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark? How many people know what the Lost Ark represents symbolically? You know what the Ark means?
Ark of the Covenant.
Ark of the Covenant. You know what that means? That's a symbol. The Ark of the Covenant was the holy box. It represented the female womb. This is the female. This is the female box, or womb. That's what the Ark of the Covenant represents. The female box. Yeah, her womb. Because out of the box, it's called, the Greeks called the female womb Pandora's box. Because you open up a lot of trouble in opening up the box. Hey, well, I'm just telling you what the ancient people said. It's Pandora's box. But it goes back to the old Ark of the Covenant box. Here from the dictionary, it says the idea of the encyclopedia says the idea of the Ark of the Covenant was copied from the Egyptian, the Akkadian, and the Chaldean Ark shrines, which held sacred fetishes, usually of a sexual nature. So that Ark is not Hebrew, it's actually Egyptian. And that's why Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark were looking for the Lost Ark, not in Jerusalem, but in Egypt. Because the whole idea is Egyptian. The whole thing comes from Egypt. They got damn thing to do with it here. That's why Indiana Jones, if he's going to find it, needs to go to Egypt. And that's why the Nazis were looking for it in Egypt too. Because the whole thing, when you're talking about the female box or the Ark of the Covenant, you're talking about sexual reproduction. You're talking about race.
Yeah.
That's right. And now you're talking about race and blood. And now you're talking about the Knights Templars, the Masonic Lodge, and who is going to be racially superior on the earth, who is going to hold the Raiders of the Lost Ark, the womb that gives life. So we need to get rid of certain races and cause others to flourish. Raiders of the Lost Ark. All that has to do with Freemasonry and racism. Well, they just having fun, making money, and all over the country, people going to see the movies. making this fun and entertainment. Here is the ark as it appeared in Egypt. The ark, and this is from a Bible dictionary. The Bible dictionary says the word ark, the word adopted from the Egyptian. Well, that ain't all that they adopted from the Egyptian, but that's just one more example. There's the ark. It's Egyptian, not Hebrew. And the angels, remember the angels that were on the mercy seat? Yeah, there's a mercy. And the mercy seat, the angels' wings came together to make up the opening of the female. That's it. Guy sees them and he said, mercy. Mercy seat. Mercy seat. That's it. Now, we can throw this in too very quickly. In Egypt, there was a celebration of the first spring rains, the rains that came in the spring, and the spring rains brought the flood of the Nile. And consequently, they had a celebration of the flood of the Nile, and they call it the celebration of the coming of the new rains in spring. And so they called it the Ark of Noah, the Ark of Noah celebration. The Ark of Noah is the moon in the lower quarter. The lower quarter of the moon in spring brought the spring rains, and the celebration of the rains that would overflow the Nile and bring water and life and nutrients to Egypt. So they celebrated the first spring rains when they celebrated it with the story. And the story was, it was a great flood that destroyed the world, the waters of chaos. And the waters of chaos came and destroyed the world, and God replenished the earth. And so the celebration was called the Ark of Noah, because in the ancient language, Arka meant wet, and N-O-A, Noah, meant moon. So Ark of Noah was the wet moon, celebration of the wet moon. Now the Hebrews came along and said, "Yeah, that'd make a good story. We can sell this for $29.95. Yeah, we can Charles Heston play this. And we sell that, we'll call it the Ark of Noah. And we'll have clothes all over the world for the Ark of Noah.
And one saying found.
Yeah, I was there when they said it.
Oh, you were?
Oh, yeah.
You bought the piece of the wood,
yeah.
the one that he cooked on the stove at home?
I was there. See, I was there. I was in the production at the time, in the studio, when they came up with that one. And I said, "You actually find the Ark of Noah?" And the guy said, "Man, we're playing to an American audience.
We'll buy anything.
They'll buy anything. Big Top, Pee Wee, Hulkamania, and Budweiser beer. Tell them what they want to hear. They want to hear we found the Ark of Noah." They buy anything, America. They love Big Top Pee Wee and cartoons and everything. We believe anything here. So there it is. There's the Ark of Noah, or the Ark of Noah. There it is again.
Anything to do with Jason the Argonauts?
The Ark, yeah, that's where it comes from. Jason the Argonaut. Ark of Noah. And here it is again. There's the Ark of Noah with the rainbow and the dove of peace on the great ocean. The Ark of Noah, or the Ark of Noah, the wet moon. Now we have something called the Yoni, coming from the old Hindu. And don't take a college graduate to figure out what that represents. It's called, in Sanskrit, delicately translated, the womb of the world. The womb of the world, of the Yoni. This is from the 1st century catacombs in Rome. They found these statues. And this is from the 1st century Christianity. In the catacombs of Rome, they found these kind of statues, which, you know, that will give you an idea of what the Christianity was really into. It was sexual, reproduction, volcanoes, mushroom, and all the rest of it. And here is the concept, the idea, again, like I said, you'll see more of them, of the wings of angels, or the wings of birds. words being put together like the female opening, which is a symbolism.
Now those look like storks.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Bring the baby.
That's it.
Yeah, sure enough.
Here it is again. Masonic symbolism, private language of the craft. Yes. So that's the whole story there. We don't give a bit on that. Here it is, a little bit more explainable. The Ark of Noah, the female, the mercy seat in the Ark of the Holy Ark. But now the angel's wings become more demonstrative. You can now see it a lot better. And here it is, the Hebrew rabbi with the Yonai. Here it is with the bat mitzvah when the Hebrew girl becomes a woman, the bat mitzvah. The African celebrated the coming out of life. The Hindu coming out to life from out of the womb. Jesus coming out of the womb. And Mary, she is the womb. And here's the, here it is again, another one of the gods coming out. And as I said yesterday, in Washington, D.C., we have the Washington Monument. The Washington Monument is an Egyptian symbol. It comes from Egypt. It's the obelisk. The obelisk, or the Washington Monument, represents the male phalanx. It's the male. And it connects with the Oval Office in Washington, D.C. So that's why the president has an Oval Office. He's operating from inside the female. See, here it is again. Now, many of the ancient gods and all the high priests, and the ancient gods and all the high priests were called penis heads. As far as I'm concerned, yeah. As far as I'm concerned, they still are. They're all a bunch of penis heads. We got a couple around town here. And they're penis heads too. But that's the facts. It's the facts of life. That's the facts. He will call penis heads. The arrogant, pompous, arrogant, penis head gods. Right? You see the headdress? You will see the same headdress on the Hebrew high priest. The Jewish high priest wear the same headdress. Pope. And the Pope wears the same thing. The Pope, and this is Hebrew, but the Pope wears the same one. The headdress. Now we have something like the pillar. It's called pillar. That's used in our architecture today. Pillar. Okay. So pillars are still being used in Western architecture today. But pillars were phallic emblems of many of the gods and heroes. So when you see these pillars, they're phallic emblems of the male. So don't be proud if somebody says you're the pillar of the community. He's a pillar in the church. Oh, he probably is. Now here we have the obelisk again. The word obelisk comes from the Greek word meaning a pointed pillar. The old joke that calls the United States' largest modern obelisk Washington's greatest erection. So that's the obelisk. Now we have something called a lingam. The phallus are, this you can read, this we'll read later, but the phallus of the lingam was usually painted red and anointed with holy oil, to which the Greeks gave the name of chrysom. We're going to show this again, so I'm not going to go into it right now. You'll see it later. But it says, of course, oil was necessary for the insertion of the stone phallus into the virgin. itself became a symbol. Kings' heads were anointed with oil, being likened to the head of the god Venus. Okay, good. Now, yeah. So when you use the term Christ, you hear the word Jesus Christ and Christ. Christ comes from the Greek word Christo. And Christo means oil. So what you're saying, and that's why Crisco oil. Because Crisco oil, Crisco is Christo. Means oil, period. The anointed one. So when you say Jesus Christ, you're talking about Jesus, the anointed one, or Jesus, anointed one with oil. And it was the insertion of the male into the female with the lubricant of oil. So that's what it is. So when you hear Jesus Christ, don't think it sounds too important or impressive or holy, because there ain't nothing holy about it. Now, in the ancient world, there were almost always two twin phallic pillars at the temple gates of the temple openings of the great temples in the ancient world. They almost always had two phallic pillars. I think that's probably symbolism of they're getting you coming and going. Got two of them there, right? When you go to church, you go to the temple. But the point is that there was always two phallic pillars, and that's why churches today, when you drive by most churches, you'll see the pointed arch of a door and the long pointed arch glass windows. The pointed arch is the female womb. It's the female opening, the pointed arch.
Same way in Islamic or Muslim architecture, all the doorways is always arched like that.
Right.
After that female goddess that became a male, Alat.
Exactly. That's exactly where it comes from. Precisely where it comes from. And the twin phallic pillars were always found in the beginning of front. Well, here it is. It says that in the encyclopedia. The Egyptian idea, or the Egyptian convention of twin phallic pillars at the temple gate were copied by the temple at Jerusalem, where the right pillar was named Jachin, which means God makes him firm. Right. And the left pillar was named Boaz, means eagerness and strength. Yeah. That's in the dictionary. Hell, I don't write this stuff. It's in the encyclopedia. Now, we got God, and the word Jachin means God makes him firm. And eagerness and strength. I don't know what the hell we're talking about here. This is from the Bible.
Talking about procreation.
That's it.
Yeah, I guess.
It has nothing to do with just procreation.
These people seem to be obsessed with this thing.
But the point is, it's been cleverly hidden in symbolism, so that if you don't know what's being said, you will read it one way, but you're not understanding what it's really talking about. And if you're not understanding, then you're proud, like the preachers in the churches go out and they proud talking about Jachin and Boaz. And you haven't got the faintest idea what Jachin and Boaz is.
Let the church say amen.
Yeah, the church says amen.
Yeah, I hear that.
There it is, temple built by Solomon. What do you see? There it is, Jachin and Boaz. The temple built by Solomon. And there it is. Solomon's temple.
That's the lotus at the top.
That's right, the lotus at the top. Exactly. Oh yeah. What, are we recording this too? I'm just hitting the light spots now. I'm going to get some heavy duty stuff coming here now.
You noticed that, right?
Now here is the ground plan for the Temple of Solomon. Here's Solomon's Temple, the ground plan. And you'll see there's Jachin and Boaz. And there's the Holy, and then there's the Most Holy. And And we're told that there's a veil between the holy and the most holy. Okay? And the only way you can get to God is tear through the veil.
Now that's why Dr. Ben says that heaven is between a black woman's legs.
That's exactly right, but that's exactly what it meant.
That's what it meant.
It meant
Heaven.
heaven was the paradise. And the paradise was based on the old ancient Semitic terms and words. And that's what it all meant. You'll see as we unfold it here. Here is the holy and the veil and the most holy. And in the most holy you have the Shekinah light. Remember the Shekinah light was in the most holy? That's Shekinah light, not Hekinah. Shekinah, that's female. But consequently you have the holy, the most holy, and then you got the veil. The veil, of course, is the veil separating in the virgin, the veil that is pierced. Now, here it is again enlarged, so you can see the ground plan. And it looks very holy here until you do it this way. Now you can understand what it's really representing. It's the male inside the female.
Okay.
So that's the most holy. So when you hear all the rabbis and the Jewish people talk about, oh, the most holy of Israel, and all the Lord is in His temple in the most holy.
Never was.
Yeah, well, look out. He's in the temple, better watch out.
Think about anything else?
That's it. So just remember when you all this talk of religion about the holy of Israel, the most holy, what it's really talking about. You see, I don't have any problem with this. I just like when them tell me the truth once in a while. Tell me where it really comes from instead of playing me for a fool.
Right, that's exactly right.
So that everybody talks about how holy Israel and how holy the temple, that great and holy temple in Jerusalem. There's nothing holy about it. One thing holy about it is the story. The story is full of holes.
Yeah,
And here's the temple downtown Los Angeles, the Hebrew temple. There's the two phallic symbols. There they are, the twin phallic pillars. Same idea, just giving you an idea about how it's everywhere. That's why when you drive by churches, you'll see the steeples, church steeples. Church steeples represent the male phallic. So when you drive by the churches and you see the male phallic and symbolism, just remember, and this is exactly why today the Jews in Jerusalem and the Jews in Europe prayed to their God when Adolf Hitler was killing Jews. And they looked to their God, Jehovah and Yahweh, to save them. But there was no God to save them from Adolf Hitler's hands. That's why from thousands of years the Jews have looked to God to save them. No one has come to save them. Today, Christians all over the country are praying to God to save them from this terrible thing that's happening to our land. And there ain't no God saving them. And they're losing their homes, they're losing their children, they're losing their families to drugs, their wives, families are breaking up. And the more they pray, and the more the catastrophes come, and there's no God coming to save them. Why? Because they're worshiping the wrong God. There ain't no God coming to save you. You just keep on worshiping the big phallic symbols and the female openings and the mushrooms and all that stuff. And when what you dread comes, like the scripture says, when what you dread comes, don't come running to me. You love it. You crawl all around in it, and you just love worshiping in the church and worshiping and doing all that silly stuff you call yourself doing. And when the trouble comes, don't go looking to God. Because the only thing there is to do with God is that great spiritual force between you and that divine creator, and they ain't got nothing to do with any of this. This is religion. So if you want to depend on the God of religion, don't look for him to come helping you, because they ain't coming back. There ain't no Messiah coming back. The only Messiah you got is in you, with that divine force in the universe that makes you who you are. You give that up, give it to somebody else, you don't have that. All you got is this. Yeah. So you might as well go and expect it, because you're going to get it, right? That's right. And here we have the Ambassador College in Pasadena. Worldwide Church of God. You heard of Herbert W. Armstrong?
I read both his books.
Yeah.
I signed him about a few $100.
Well, here's the Ambassador College in Pasadena. Okay. See, this is just a, here's this picture up here enlarged. What's that look like to you?
I think I aware of all this.
Say it again.
Herbert Armstrong, was he aware of all this?
Oh, sure. As dumb as he is, that's stupid. Sure, he knows that. Sure. Of course he did. But he was a British Israelite Freemason. I have all of his documents. Herbert W. Armstrong.
He said he had a dream where a big angel came down in the middle of New York City street, gave him and his wife a prophecy.
Give them what?
Gave them a prophecy to go out and teach the world about the coming of the kingdom of God.
That's right, it'll be dead. It's probably Rockefeller was in New York. And he said, "Chump, I want your ass out there." Yeah, it was an angel from New York. His name was David. We call him just David Rockefeller.
Now, when you understand angels and death, you will see he is an angel.
That's right.
Angels, according to Frederick Ide, who wrote in the book, what's the name of it? The Popes Bear All Unzipped. Angels were what the Pope called young male homosexuals from northern Germany.
Yeah. We can dig it. Germany. Makes sense to me. When you understand all of this, what it's based on. Well, I mean, this is in Israel. Okay, now this is in Israel. This is where the Dead Sea Scrolls are kept. This is where the here's how the Dead Sea Scrolls are kept. And they built this thing, and the whole idea is the same concept.
That's one and made it.
That's it. You got it. Now, here we have something called anointing with oil. Now, remember, we were reading this a while ago, anointing with oil. This is from the Bible. All right, so we're talking about getting anointed with oil. And it says, kings were anointed. The kings were anointed with holy oil at their coronation to show that they were consecrated to God. The term Messiah comes from the Hebrew Messiah, meaning anointed one. Okay? So kings were anointed with holy oil at their coronation to show that they were consecrated to God. The term Messiah comes from the Hebrew Messiah, meaning anointed one. One of the kings or high priest being anointed with holy oil. Here is another prophet of God being anointed in the head with holy oil. Here is Saul being anointed in the head with holy oil. This actually goes back to the Egyptian anointing with holy oil. The phallus, and here's the one we were reading before. I got a better blow up of this one. The phallus or the lingua was usually painted red, anointed with holy oil, to which the Greeks gave the name of Chrism. Thus the divinely begotten one was given the name of Christos, meaning anointed. Jesus the Christos, or Jesus the anointed. Of course, oil was necessary to the insertion of the stone phallus into the virgin. Later, the oil itself became a symbol. Kings' heads were anointed with oil, being like at the head of the god penis. So when you hear all these wonderful kings of Israel were anointed in their head, that's because the people looked on them as big penises. Yeah.
Now, when you look at that, I can't help but draw the association in words. When you look at that, it's called, in Greek, called chrism.
Mm-hmm.
All right?
Yeah.
Now, when you get down into street terminology here,
yeah,
it's called jourd.
Yeah.
So you draw the association.
Of course there is. There's always word association, phonetics. There's always going to be associations symbolically in languages. This is one of the ancient gods being anointed with holy oil, anointing the phallic with holy oil. And that comes to the 1st century, one of the 1st century statues in Rome. Yeah. So the next time you hear someone talk about Jesus Christ, just remember Christ means chrism, which is the oil of anointing. And that's what it all means. So don't expect Jesus Christ to come back and save you. Right. Huh?
A lot of people, like you myself, pray to Jesus Christ.
Yeah, well, you're praying to a big Peter. Why don't you pray to the God that created you?
There's no name for that God.
That's right. That's right. There ain't no name. But you know who he is, and he knows who you are. And that's all you need to know. Huh? No. No. No, that divine creator knows who you are. That's why the Bible clearly says if you're going to serve God, you serve him in spirit and truth. Period. That's all you need to do to serve God, is serve him in spirit and truth. So it didn't say church in spirit and truth. It just said spirit and truth. Period. Now, circumcision, we're told in the Bible, is a very holy thing. Circumcision. You have to be circumcised. And the Lord God had Israel all circumcise their males, because that was a very holy thing. The fact of the matter is, after you get past all that silly stuff, the fact of the matter is circumcision was around in the ancient Egyptians before Hebrews ever existed. And the ancient people all circumcised their males. And it wasn't because God was so holy. They circumcised their young males because the whole of worship was the worship of sex. And consequently, the male phallic would get an erection quicker without the foreskin than it would with the foreskin. And since consequently we're promoting sex worship, we cut the male's foreskin. So he will get an erection quicker. So when you read in the Bible about how Jehovah, the Yahweh, instructed the children of Israel to be circumcised, and that was very holy, think about it. What is holy about messing with another guy's penis? And then think about it. What is holy about cutting the foreskin off of another guy's penis? First of all, if God created man and he was perfect, then what are you doing corrective surgery on his penis for? If God didn't want the foreskin on there, he wouldn't have put it on him when he created him. And if he put it on him, that's because God saw that he was perfect, and he don't need you to go cutting the foreskin off because you want to promote sex worship. So you just keep praying to your God, and ain't nothing going to work out. Because all you're into is sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And of course we got the cross. And the cross was called the key to life. The key to life, and there it is, the key to life. And it was the key to life. There's the female and there's the male. And that is, of course, the key to life. And here's an Aztec god, an old Aztec god. This is an old Aztec god who dies on the cross. I've got about 25 different pictures of ancient gods in the prehistoric and ancient world who died on the cross. So the whole idea of a god dying on the cross, that ain't nothing new. Hell, the Aztecs had that. The Messiah who dies on the cross. And we get into that. I'll explain that later if you want me to. I'll get into the astrotheology, explain to you where all of this symbolism came from. If we have enough time, if you want me to, I'll get into that later. Here we have the old Babylonian Sumerian symbol of the sun with two wings, the winged sun. Remember how the Bible says, Jesus said, I'd like to gather you under my wing, because the sun, God's sun, the light of the world. The sun always had wings. And that's why in America, Freemasonry in America is referred to as the Sun Order. And Freemasonry is referred to as the Sun Order. And that's why in America we only have left wing and right wing politics. The two wings of the great Sun Order. Yeah, French Grand Orient Temple Masonry. That's why our colors are red, white, and blue from France. And of course France got the red, white, and blue from Solomon's Temple. Red, white, and blue covered in black. And there it is again, God's sun with the wings. Here is the worship of Osiris with the Ka symbol on the Ka, or the raised hands, the Ka symbol, which symbolize the worship of Osiris or the worship of the sun. Raised hands. Here's Horus, of course. Horus. Here is it's actually, the symbolism is the sun in the constellation of Aries, the ram. The sun for the 2,125 years in the age of Aries, the ram. Consequently, today the Hebrews blow the ram's horn, because they're worshiping the ancient god of Aries, the ram, God's son. And so today we see the Hebrews blowing the ram's horn, and oh my God, that is so holy and so righteous. And they got the big Peter heads blowing the horns, and it looks so holy and righteous until you figure out what all this is. That's the same old worship of the ram god of Egypt. And the idea is that the Messiah was being celebrated. The Messiah is the Son, God's Son. S-U-N, not S-O-N. God's Son, the light of the world. Of course the Son's the light of the world. Well, He is risen. Well, that's what the sun does. Every morning it rises. Yeah. Well, yeah, and the ancient Egyptians said as long as the sun rises every morning, there will always be life on the earth. As long as the sun comes up on the earth, there will always be life. So consequently, the sun became synonymous with everlasting life, because the sun, God's Son, will guarantee you everlasting life on the earth. Not for you, because you're going to die, but on the earth, there will always be everlasting life, but not for you. So in other words, as an individual, you're going to die, but the earth will always have everlasting life as long as God's Son, because that's His gift to the world. And consequently, they realized that all the life on the earth, all life on the earth comes from the sun. And the sun was giving energy. It gives out its energy so that the plants and you consume the energy and you stay alive. So therefore, God's Son is giving His life energy. He's giving His life so that you may live. Well, and I say, bring me some stuff like that. Well, you better go back and read this stuff right, because there ain't no Savior coming to save you. He's already here. I'm talking to it. You look in the mirror, and that's it. That's as far as it goes. And if you don't stand up for yourself and act like you were created by God, and start acting like a creature of God, and serving God in spirit and truth, then that God you don't expect him to come help you. But you will notice something. If you do start facing up to facts and do start turning inward inside of yourself and start trying to get spiritually straight with that universal God force, watch what begins to happen in your life. All kinds of strange things begin to happen. Doors open up, knowledge begins to open up to you, things begin to, it's almost as if you're being protected, and God is coming to help you, and you're opening your mind up, and things are starting to happen around you, and you don't know why it's happening. That's because you finally got it straight. Yes?
Should we continue reading King James Version?
You can read and worship anything you want to, but know the truth, and the truth will make you free.
That's it. You got that right.
According to who?
That's why the King James is called the authorized version, because it was authorized by the king. Now, anybody who knows anything about King James knows he was a homosexual murderer that raped boys and then killed them after he raped them, and then would go out hunting and kill large animals and cut them open and lay in the blood. So he obviously had some problems. And he's the one that authorized the Bible, the King James Bible. So that's why it's called the authorized version. He didn't give you the real one. This is the authorized version. This is where you're supposed to read it as far as the king's concerned.
Most of the people who talk about the authorized version, they state that he has nothing to do with it. But the scholars that he...
Oh, of course. Of course. Oh, yeah, absolutely. But you got to know as well as I do that if the King of England hires you to do some translating, he's going to check it out before he puts his name on it. And if you put anything in there that he don't like, you got to know that he is the king and he can take it out.
And then when you look and see, and you know the scholars that he chose to write.
They were all Freemasons. Freemasons, absolutely.
And there you have in
the connection.
The connection. You just look at where they came from.
They were all Freemasons and Rosicrucians. Yeah. So therefore, the king would say, "Here's the deal. You translate it. And if you put something in there I don't like, you can bet I'm going to take it out."
That should be documented.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We know how much was taken out by King James. We know exactly what was taken out. There are books written about all the things. Here are the things that King James took out of the Bible. Now, here's what was in it originally, and here's what he authorized. But see, he didn't authorize this, so he took it out.
Do you have access to the book Demonology?
His original one? Yeah. I have a photocopy of it. It's a very difficult book to find.
Is there any way I can get that?
Probably so. If I could run you off a copy. It's a thick one though.
What's the name of it?
Demonology by King James.
James.
King James wrote a book called Demonology. Well, why not? Why not King James? He knew all about it.
And he was asking for some authentication.
Yeah.
One is a secret way that the scholars, the head man signed it when it was completed in 46 songs. 46 words from the front and 46 words from the back will give you Shakespeare.
Yeah, good.
But it wasn't Shakespeare, you see.
Yeah, Shakespeare was probably a code name.
It is a code name
for a society, for writings, a literary society. That's a whole thing on that up here in Manly P. Hall's book on Shakespeare. Manly P. Hall's book on Shakespeare.
Secret teaching.
Yeah. Where Shakespeare was not an actual man, it was the signature of a society, a secret society. And if you spell out their agenda, it spells out Shakespeare. So it was like a writing society that was promoting an idea, and they made it look like it was one man's writing. But The idea I will get into later, but it has to do with the preeminence of the British over the rest of the world. The British and the English. British comes from the Hebrew word berith. Berith means a contract or a covenant, and ish means man or men. Therefore, British is berith-ish, which means the men of the covenant, or the men of the new covenant. And the men of the new covenant are going to be, the new covenant, of course, is the New Testament, which is the promise for a kingdom that will unite the world, God's kingdom, and it will unite the world. That's why England is called the United Kingdom. And when the King of England is crowned, listen to what the Archbishop of Canterbury, when he reads to the new king his oath of office, it says that something to the effect that you are taking this position of King of England for Jesus Christ. And until such time as Jesus Christ comes back, you, the King of England, are King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And to see if Jesus don't come back, then you're God. You're as close to God as anybody's going to get. Yeah. But that's interesting when you see that the King of England is the vicar of Christ, and then the Pope says, wait a minute, what just went on here? You say you were the vicar of Christ? And the king said, yeah, that's me. I'm standing in for Jesus. And the Pope said, what you think I'm doing here? Yeah, you got a problem here. And so they broke apart.
I sincere with the Pope last week on abortion. He did some articles on, he don't think it was very humane. There's a great danger going to happen if they keep up this abortion.
Well, of course there's a great danger. You're going to be killing Catholics. Hell, he needs Catholics. That's it. And the more Catholics that die, and the more Protestants that are born, that's the whole idea behind the abortion thing. The Catholics don't, the Pope does not want abortions because he don't want people killing Catholics. He wants Catholics to have 6,500 babies. Because every time you have a baby as a Catholic, that's one more vote for the Catholic. They're very much connected. Yeah, the Catholic Church is a Masonic, Semitic Masonic order. That's why the Pope wears the Jewish yarmulke.
They still don't have any conflict.
Yeah, that's right. I'll get into that later, showing you how both of them know that there's no conflict at all. It's ordo ab chaos, order out of the chaos. Here is another classic example. This is the ancient Incas. And they're up on the altar. There's the altar. And they're worshiping God's Son on the altar. So when you go to church and you see the priest up on the altar and he's worshiping God's Son, just remember, hell, the Incas were doing that 1,000 years before Christianity. Incas, Mayas, Aztecs, the Toltecs of Mexico, the Egyptians, everybody else, they all worship God's Son. The light of the world. Well, of course the Son's the light of the world. But just as you have seen him go away on a cloud, he will come back and return on the cloud. That's right. Go out here in the ocean at night and watch and see if the sun don't leave the world on a cloud. And check it out tomorrow morning when it comes up in the morning and see if it don't come up on a cloud. So just as you see him leaving on a cloud, that's the way you're going to see him coming back, is on a cloud. Well, yeah, but that's just the sun. Well, that's all we're talking about, Jack, is just the sun.
S-O-N to S-O-N.
That's right. That's right. That's where the confusion comes in. It was originally S-O-N to S-U-N. S-U-N is S-O-N. Sun, sun. Yes. You transpose the word. And one is real and one's a symbol. And Jesus is the symbol of the Son, God's Son. That's why he has 12 helpers. The 12 apostles are the 12 tribes of Israel, and the 12 brothers of Joseph, and the 12 great prophets of Israel. Everything's 12. The 12 brothers of Joseph, the 12 tribes of Israel, the 12 apostles. What do you think the 12 is? It's the 12 months of the year. The 12 constellations, the 12 signs of the zodiac. The Great Seal, of course. It's the 12 signs of the zodiac, and they hang out with God's Son. Well, of course they hang out with God's Son. As a matter of fact, that's all the Son does is hang out with them chosen 12. And that's why, remember the story is that Jesus was betrayed in the temple. Okay? This part of your brain up here where your head is called your temple. And Jesus is symbolically the truth and the light. He said, I am the truth and the light. He doesn't say I represent the truth and the light. He said, I am the truth and the light. Because the Son is the truth and the light. Because at nighttime you can't tell what's going on, but when the sun comes up, that is the truth. You can see it right here. You're in the light. And so therefore the Son says, I am the truth and the light. Therefore, if you turn away from the truth, when someone's giving you the truth, but you can't handle it, and you turn away, and you turn back, that's the way you react to something that's too bright. If the wisdom that's being given to you is too brilliant and you can't handle the light, you turn away from it because that's too bright. That's it. So therefore, that's right, you can't handle the light. So the point is, you just put to death, you just caused and made the judgment. You made the judgment to put to death God's Son. Where? In the temple. You just decided you don't want to hear it no more. That's it. So you just give him the judgment. He's going to die. Now when he dies, where does he die? Where does the truth and the light die? In your head. Skull place, Golgotha, the place of the skull.
There's a tree of life going up your chakra to your brain.
Oh yeah, the tree of life is the chakra that goes up to the brain, right.
Is that in relation to George Washington cutting the tree and keep it from blooming maybe?
There's all kinds of connections can be made. But I'm just saying that that's where we put to death God's Son, is in Golgotha, or place of the skull. In other words, in your head. That's where you put the light and the truth. In your head.
That's why I say my people are destroyed for the
lack of knowledge.
So the original version of the Bible, what's happening? Where is it?
I don't know what's happened there.
Number one, what is the original version?
Yeah, that's the big question. And then what happened to it?
Okay, you said that there were parts that were left out.
Yeah.
And okay, and you said you have access to those parts.
Yeah.
So,
but that's not even important. What is actually important is the original, not even the one that King James got a hold of and he messed up, but you need to go back to the actual original writings from whence the Bible came from. If you go back to those originals, now that's where you're really getting into the serious stuff. And that's the Nag Hammadi manuscripts of Egypt. That's the Dead Sea Scrolls of the Qumran community. Right. And then once you've gone through the Nag Hammadi manuscripts, the Nag Hammadi library in Egypt, and the Dead Sea Scrolls, and find out what's really in the Dead Sea Scrolls, then you're ready for Gerald Massey and Albert Churchward and Godfrey Higgins, and the whole story begins to open up big time. Right here. I can give you the books right over here. Gerald Massey. That's it. Once you've got that, yeah, then you wake up and find out that there's a whole world of knowledge that you haven't been told. And they figure that that's I've had priests and ministers tell me that kind of information right here is on a need-to-know basis, and poor folks don't need to know.
They all know it. If they went to seminary, they know this.
Why do you think they call it a seminary?
Cemetery.
what's the name of those?
Seminary. Seminal fluid.
That's it. They go to the seminary to learn how to give it to you. That's it. It's incredible. Yeah. When we're told that the Messiah dies with the crown of thorns, remember? Okay. Now the crown of thorns is like the Statue of Liberty has a crown of thorns. Because the sunburst is a crown of thorns. Right. See? The rays of the sun. All these are ancient. Here's the old ancient Assyrian god in the 1st century. See the rays of the sun? Here's the crown of thorns, the sun rays. The rays of the sun are the crown of thorns. The Statue of Liberty has the crown of thorns. Now here, this chump has God's Son in his heart. That's it. So therefore, when you hear Christians say, I've just got the Lord in my heart. You say, well, shoot, lots of people got that. But the Son in your heart. Now here is an Aztec priest. And you know, people, you've heard Christians say, you've heard church people say that they have given their heart to the Lord.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, I'll show you where that comes from. Here's where that comes from. The Aztec priest offers up the heart of a sacrificial victim to the sun god. There's God's Son. See? There's God's Son. See the fire? And there's the sun. And here's the priest, and he's offering up some chump's heart. See? So he's offering up a heart to God. Now, of course, he's not offering up, incidentally, he's not offering up his heart, he's offering up somebody else's heart. Yeah. Yeah. Now here he is. See the Aztec human sacrifice, he's offering up his heart, somebody else's heart to God's Son. So whenever you hear somebody say, yeah, I gave my heart to the Lord, well, that chump did too. But he didn't give it willingly, but he gave it to God's Son. So that's why it don't impress me to hear somebody say, well, I gave my heart to the Lord. Oh, are you kidding? Only for a few moments, though. Not for long. That's what the Aztecs used to do. They cut open the chest and pull out the heart and offer it up to God. They give him God's Son their heart.
You remember that temple?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now here is the fish god Dagon from the old ancient Hindu. Dagon. Or Dagon. Dagon. Yeah.
What's the big muscle guy? Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
When he's gonna raise Dagon with the horn in the head.
Yeah, right. Well, there it is. And that's where we get the story of Jonah and the whale. It goes back to the ancient Hindu. The Hindu, when we talk about 3,500 years before Christianity, the Hindus had the story of the great prophet who was swallowed by the fish. Now,
Mr. Jordan, you missed one of the slides. Maybe it's about the fifth one now. I was trying to interrupt. You didn't comment on that one. Which one was that? It looked like it had a sun and a face coming out, but you skipped that one.
Oh, no, that was just showing you that priest of worshiping the sun. Just one more priest worshiping the sun. Because all priests.
So you didn't have on the mushroom head. I didn't know.
Yeah, well, no, not all of them. And just the Hebrews have on the mushroom head. You know, but all priests in the world worship the sun. All of them.
I just didn't want
Everybody dresses different. And it looks different and says different things in different languages, but that's all the same thing. They're still worshiping sex, drugs, and the sun. That's it. So that's the bottom line. Yeah, and that's it. What you see is what you get. Right. And here's the fisher god. Here's the god again, the fish god. Now this is Dagon, the fish god. Okay, now let me show you here. Here's Anis, one of the old ancient Anis, the fish man. He's an ancient god in the Babylonian Sumerian system. He was called Anis, the fish god. Okay, and he's wearing the fishes. Now here is a Assyrian king or god wearing the fish head. See it? Now, when you see the Pope, see? When you see the Pope is wearing the fish head, see? So here's the chump wearing the fish head. And there it is. You should have known there's something fishy about this thing to start with. Should have smelled something wrong to start with.
Then they went on, the Scandinavians took it and had Freya.
Precisely, and that's why they eat fish on Friday.
Friday.
Friday comes from Freya.
Freya.
And Freya is the fish god. Therefore, the Roman Catholics eat fish on Friday to honor the fish god.
Like all the fish markets know about that.
That's right, of course. That's right. And that's why all the fish markets are not going to care that I'm out here blowing the whistle on them. It's incredible. Okay, now that's part one.
How do they know how to make the symbols in the last slide? If you had not shown that, I would not have known, and maybe some other people. So how do they know to make it where it will not appear to be what it is?
Well, if you don't know what it is, it don't make no difference how they make it.
If you don't know what the story is, they can make it any way they want. I have a lot more. I have a lot more. You were saying about this fiction. What were they? Yeah, wait a minute. I want to tell the audience one thing. I got a lot more yet, so if you're interested, I got a lot more we're going to do. Now, what was your question?
You saying about the fish? I was trying to write it down. What were those people celebrating again? I mean, what was their background again?
You mean the
Fish god?
The fish god? Oh, it's Dagon. D-A-G-O-N. Dagon. Dagon, the fish god. And that's why Jesus is called the great fisherman. And that's why Christians are called fish. Because you catch fish. Till they clutch you. Fisher of men. You got caught. And that's why they say you got caught by pulling the wool on scribblings of a lamb. The lamb pulled the wool over your eyes.
So the lamb don't really have no real significance other than that.
Well, the lamb has a significance, yeah, it does. It goes back to the old Sumerian worship of the sun as the lamb. That was the sun, when it dies in the winter, was like a sacrifice, and consequently they sacrificed the lamb in relation to the sun. But I'll get into that later too. Incidentally, if you understand that the 12 apostles represented, okay, is that restaurant next door open?
Yes. Yeah.
Could somebody get a couple of those drinks that we had here before? Yeah, the ginseng. Somebody could go over and get a couple of the ginseng drinks. And then I'm going to get on with this. If you understand that the 12 apostles were based on the 12 signs of the zodiac, or the 12 months of the year, okay? One of the signs of the zodiac is Virgo the Virgin, right? That's one of the signs of the zodiac, is Virgo. And in the sign of Virgo the Virgin, she's holding a baby. The baby is called the newborn one, or the sent one, the anointed one. Consequently, when the sun moves into the constellation of Virgo, it is said that God's son is born of a virgin. Virgo the Virgin. And that's what it means. And Jesus is said to be the Lion of the tribe of Judah. The lion is Leo, the constellation of Leo in the summer. Then we're told that Jesus was betrayed in the temple, and Judas, in order to identify him so he could be killed, went out and kissed him. He gave him the kiss of death. He went out and kissed him. Is that right? That's where we get the idea of the kiss of death. Because when the whole thing has to do with this, to understand why Judas kissed him, it has to do with the scorpion. Fall is in the constellation of Scorpio. Scorpio is one of the constellations of the zodiac, Scorpio. And that is late October, October 23rd to November, into the middle of November. So it's late October into November, which brings on fall. And consequently, fall betrays God's Son, who is going to now die in winter. The Sun is now going to die in winter. And consequently, the constellation of Virgo is the scorpion. And it is a very interesting point about scorpions that most people don't know. If you get stung by a scorpion, scorpions have two stingers, not one on top of the other. And if you get stung by a scorpion, they will tell you in the Middle East that it looks just like a human lips. That's what the incision looks like. If a scorpion stings you, it looks like a top and a bottom lip. And so therefore, the ancient people called the scorpion's bite the kiss of death. That's why the mafia on Malta has many scorpions. So that was, the mafia said that when they get ready to kill you, it's like the kiss of death. They give you the kiss. That's not because they love you. That means you're dead. Go lay down somewhere because you're dead. So they give you the kiss of death. Consequently, Scorpio, or the scorpion, which is a symbol of fall, Scorpio, late October, early November, gives the kiss of death to God's Son, because in December it's winter and he's going to die. And then I might as well go and finish this off. I'll finish this off. Something happens in December that's very interesting that most people don't know. The ancient people knew it because they saw it. We don't know it. The calendar, the round sun calendar, like the Aztecs, the Mayas, and the Incas, and all the Egyptians, everybody had the round sun calendars. The calendar had 360 degrees or notches in it, 360 of them. It was called a 360 degree circle. And then they had the stab in the middle, which was the sundial. And so each day the sun would hit the stab and hit on a degree. And so each day the sun would move 1 degree. Each day the sun would move, and I'm going to go back to the pictures in just a minute. Each day the sun would move 1 degree on the round sundial. And at the end of the year, it would start here. At the end of the year, it would have moved all the way around to the 360th, and that's what we call a solar calendar, 360 days. But they didn't work out, so the Egyptians added 5 days, and today we call it the calendar we have now is 365 days. But the point is that every year the sun moves further and further south, and the further it goes south, the colder it gets, until finally it hits the lowest point, I guess this is south, the lowest point in the southern sky. And when the sun hits the lowest point, and it's not going to go any further, that happens on December 22nd. December 22nd, the sun moves into the southern sky at the lowest point. Right. And so on December 22nd, on the sundial, the sun hits on a particular degree. And on the 23rd, it's still on the same degree. And on the 24th, it's still on the same degree. The sun does not, it goes all the way down. Each day it's moving 1 degree each day, until finally it hits down at the lowest point, and something happens where it does not move on the sundial for 3 days. For 3 days it comes up, and on the sundial is on the same degree. The ancient people said anything that's been moving all year long and has stopped, it's dead for 3 days. So the sun is in his tomb for 3 days. God's Son died for 3 days. That's right, because it was moving all year long, and it ain't moving for 3 days. That means it must be dead. And then on December 25th, the sun, the dial moves one time backwards, 1 degree backwards on the sundial backwards, which means now it's going to start coming back toward the northern hemisphere. It's coming back. So each day it rises and rises, and it's getting warmer and warmer until the first day of spring. So on the first day it rises is on December 25th. Therefore today we celebrate God's birthday, God's Son's birthday on December 25th. That's right, because the sun was dead for 3 days. Now it moved again. So anything that was dead for 3 days and starts moving again has got to be born again. So therefore we're all going to be born again. So now the sun starts coming back to the northern hemisphere because we done celebrated his birth, and he's born on December 25th. Now as the sun's coming back and it gets up here to the first week of spring, all of a sudden life comes back to the earth. Boys chasing the girls, women chasing the guys, everybody's drinking, and life has come back to the world. All the plants are growing, and everybody comes back to life. All the animals come out from hibernating, and it's good times again. Consequently, right, so consequently, the sun had died in winter and was dead for 3 days. Therefore, we are celebrating, and even today we say, when someone dies, we say, grandmother passed last night, or they passed on, or they passed away. But the word pass is always in it. They passed last night, right? But the ancient people said that, that when you died, you passed over. Because see, you were here, but you died, now you're over there, wherever there is. Well, that's where you are now, because you passed over.
From the east bank to the west bank.
That's originally from the east to the west bank, right. But the point was that you had passed over to another life. Therefore, the sun was dead in winter. It's come back in the spring. So the ancient people, 2,000 years before Hebrews ever existed, they celebrated the first week of spring, and they called it the Passover. So today, we celebrate the Passover, a very holy occasion. No, it's the first week of spring. Damn. Ain't nothing holy about that. The first week of spring. And then, the Christians celebrate the resurrection. Of course the sun's resurrected. It was dead in the winter, and it come back in the spring. Now it's resurrected. And therefore, you got to have, now you understand where the Passover comes from. The Passover is nothing but the sun that passed over from the death of winter to the new life of spring. It passed over. I don't know what's so special about that. It happens every year.
From below to above the celestial equator.
Right. I love it. Now, if you understand that, for the first time you will understand why God is referred to as He. Why God is He. We refer to God as Him and He. Why couldn't God be a she? I mean, after all, a woman's the one that gives birth to the babies, and the woman's creating life, and if only God can create life, well, that's what the woman does. Well, the ancient people said the woman represented God, not man. Man represented a lot of things, but God ain't one of them. Right. So if there's anything godly or nurturing or holy or righteous, it's the woman, not the man. And consequently, the ancient peoples understood that. And they had goddesses. And the very earth was your mother. Mother Earth, Mother Nature. The earth was your mother. And therefore in the spring, when the rains came, that's the sacred fluid impregnating Mother Earth. Now if Mother Earth is being impregnated by that sacred fluid, it must be from the Father who is in heaven. And that's where we get the idea of God the Father. There ain't no God the Father. It's just rain coming in to impregnate Mother Earth. The original God in the Hindu religion, one of the absolute oldest gods in the Hindu religion, his name was Rain, R-A-I-N. That's why today we call the sacred fluid that falls from heaven rain. But that's where it comes from, the god Rain, who was the great male who impregnated Mother Earth. And consequently, you can't have that kind of, you can't have that kind of activity, the father impregnating the mother, unless you have a wedding first. You don't want to be doing that kind of stuff until after the wedding, right? So consequently, in the ancient world of Phoenicia, Canaanites, the Phoenician, Canaanites, Sumerians, and all that area around Babylon, they celebrated the first rain as being the first conception from the male into the female. So they celebrated that first spring rain, and they called it the marriage feast of Cana, where Mother Earth asked God's Son to draw water so he can make grapes grow into wine. So therefore he transposes water into wine. Of course he's transposed. He draws the water and makes it rain on the grapes, and we're going to have wine. And in spring we all get drunk and go out and chase women. That's it. That's the name of the marriage feast of Cana. All of these are nothing more than stories. They're just stories. That's why the Bible is called the greatest story ever told. Not the greatest, it's not the greatest collection of facts. It's the greatest story. Why? Because it's the oldest story in the world. That's why it's the greatest story. As a matter of fact, it's the only story in the world. Hell, this one goes all the way back to day one. And every culture has told it different. Every culture has their own story. The Egyptians had their story, and their city where they worship God's sun was called On. The Greeks call it Heliopolis, but it was actually called On. That's why when you walk in a room, you flip a light on, because it was the city of the sun, light. And consequently, every culture has always told the same story, but the problem is the story originated in Africa. It originated in Africa on the Nile. It was picked up eventually, and there were even cultures before that, but they were not as prominent, and they had not codified this belief system. The Babylonians and the Sumerians, they had the same ideas, same stuff. But the Egyptians took it and they made it into a religion. And they codified it and wrote it down. And if you're going to do it this way. And they had it all written down. And when you understand it all and begin to read it, it all makes sense. That's why the Bible's called the greatest story ever told, because it's the same story that's been told from day one. It's just been told in a different way, and you didn't see it. For many would look with their eyes and not see, and listen with their ears, but not hear, and with your heart not get the sense of it.
What's the name of Africa before it was called Africa?
There was, yeah, I know. There were two words for it. One was called chemi, from which we get alchemical or chemistry. But there was another. Wait a minute. The land of Syriac.
Yeah, Kebulan.
And well, that's right. Yeah, but it wasn't called that. But I'm saying that it was referred to by many people as the land of Syriac. From. Well, yeah, the word today, Africa, probably is, because, yeah, what?
Alpha comes from the Greek for black, Alpha. Then you had, in here, Ruth is birth canal. That's what the yoni symbol
yeah,
was called.
Yeah, of course it was, yes.
Called Ruth, from whence you get the name Ruth.
Yes.
All right, then Ka.
And then you get the word truth from Ruth.
Ka. All right. The black soul mother.
Yeah.
Black mother soul. That's according to J.A. Rogers.
But there's also many other writers, many other authors, many authors. Yeah, we haven't been told the half of it. Oh, wait a minute, I got the wrong thing here. Let's start with this one. You realize how many people have went to church and bringing money and giving money to the ministers and paying for all the church and paying for this and paying for that for the church, and come to find out, and all the time the ministers know this. They just ain't telling you. But hell, it beats working, don't it? Well, can't knock that. Don't knock it. Nothing wrong with that. That's it. It's incredible. Oh, yes. Oh. What were you going to do with this? Are you going to be...
It's just a condenser.
No, I know, no, I'm talking about the film itself. Oh, good, okay. I have so many people coming in on a lot of things I do. People come in and tape them and end up, they're being sold in France somewhere or something. And they're yours, that's all right. Anyway, let's get back to it. Yeah. Now the rose, as it is used in politics and occultism, goes back to the red rose is connected to the Tudor dynasty of England. The Tudor dynasty of England, or the royal dynasty in England. Their symbol of the royalty of England is the Tudor red rose. Why the red rose? Because they're reds. Communism is referred to as red. The scarlet-colored wild beast in Revelation, scarlet-colored wild beast is red. And therefore the rose is the red rose of socialism and communism, which is the brains, is England. England is the brains behind socialism and communism. The Soviet Union, all of this communism going on, socialism, it's all British royalty. They're the ones that come up with the idea. They're the ones that had to finance the Bolshevik Revolution, the Communist Revolution. And so all their friends here in New York City, and all the big shots in New York City, Chicago, Citicorp Bank, and all that gang, all of them, they all put their money in with the British royalty and finance all the socialist movements throughout the world.
What was the purpose of doing that?
To collectivize labor. To collectivize labor. That's why you have a painters union, plumbers union, and the Soviet Union.
It's one big union.
One big union. Everybody works for the boss.
Remember the Union Army?
That's right. Exactly. It's to collectivize labor. Get everybody in the world to work for you. And therefore we'll have God's kingdom. Everybody will be on their knees, and we're going to smoke cigars in New York up there at the Waldorf Astoria, and the Queen of England will make another billion, and the Rothschild House of Rothschild will make another 100 billion, and all the poor folks will never wake up, and they'll never suspect, because they're waiting on the Lord to come back. And they ain't never going to see it coming.
Well, is it true that the Social Security number is the mark of the beast?
I don't think so, but I could be wrong. I think the mark of the beast, I have my own idea about what the mark of the beast is. If it is not the mark of the beast, it's a good try. It don't miss it by much. You know, it's a good one, but I don't think that's it yet. I'll tell you what I think, and this is just what I think. In Freemasonry, in world Freemasonry, there is a faction, there's a particular kind of Freemasonry connected with the York Rite, which gives us New York. New York comes from the York Rite, or the Duke of York, or York Rite in England. And the symbol for the York Rite is called Mark, M-A-R-K, Mark Masonry. M-A-R-K, Mark Masonry. And in ancient England, when the Freemasons would build something, that would say they would put their mark on it. And that was a Masonic mark. So when they would build something or or great sculpturing or a picture of something, whoever did it would put their mark on it. And the symbol for mark masonry is the triangle within a circle. And that's what I think is the mark, is the triangle within a circle. And since you brought that up, I'm going to show it to you right now. Here's what I think the mark of the beast is. Since you brought that up, let's look at it. Because that's the first thing on this is the mark. Here it is. There it is.
Oh, right there.
That's the beast.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, as a matter of fact, huh? Yeah,
Right over to, oh my goodness.
there it is. See it? The circle and the triangle, okay? Now, let's see how that works out. Here it is again, the triangle and the circle. The circle has to do with the sun, and the triangle has to do with the pyramid. Because the pyramids were always used in relation to worship of God's sun. And the circle and the triangle, which is a symbol of mark masonry. And I think this is the mark, the triangle within the circle. And if you saw the new movie that's out called Stargate, they not only were in Egypt with the pyramid, but what did they find at the very beginning of Stargate? The circle. And when they picked up the circle, did you see it? Did you see the movie? Oh. And when they pick up the circle, what do you see in the circle when they pick it up? Is the pyramid in the middle. Now you have the circle with the pyramid in the middle, or the triangle within the circle. Now here is a dictionary of Freemasonry. And here's a symbol out here on the, there it is. You see that triangle within the circle? Now, here's the double-headed eagle, there's the Bible. There's the Bible. There's the hammer of Thor. Here's the cross and the crown. We'll get to that later. But here's the triangle and the circle. Now that's why the triangle is within the circle. See the circle, and there's the triangle. See? And this is Freemasonry, the dictionary of Freemasonry. The triangle is within the circle. That's why this triangle is within the circle. Now here in El Salvador, the national coat of arms, is a triangle within the circle. El Salvador. The two blue stripes with one in the middle. The white in the middle on the two blue stripes. The triangle within the circle, El Salvador. Nicaragua. The two blue stripes, the white in the middle, the triangle within the circle. I think this is the mark of the beast. I got a lot more reasons for saying that. I got a lot of reasons. I could talk to you for an hour and a half on just this symbol right here of the cross, of the triangle and the circle, and why I think it's the mark of the beast. I'm just showing you some of the light stuff. Now here is some poor fool. He's on his knees to the Lord. And what do you see over here is the triangle and the circle. There's the Masonic Lodge, and over here you'll see the triangle and the circle again. It's the lodge of the Mark Master Masons. And there's the triangle and the circle, and then here is the Royal Arch Freemasonry with the Bible, Star of David, and up here you will see up here the triangle and the circle again. Now here is the School of Theology over at Claremont School of Theology in California. It's one of the many theological institutes, theological seminaries, what do you see on the pulpit? Huh? Right there. Right on the podium. And that's from the Claremont School of Theology. So when you see the minister and the preacher on the podium, better check out the symbols, because that's going to tell you where he's coming from. You better believe it. That's mark masonry. He's got the mark. He's taken the mark. Just give you an idea how you see this all the time, the triangle within the circle. Yeah. Yeah. Space flight. Now, all right, now I'm going to get into the thing I was talking to you about Jimmy Carter before. Masonic Orders of Fraternity. The direct descent of the essential program for the esoteric schools was entrusted to groups already well conditioned for the work. The guilds, now follow this because this is going to be a rather heavy duty and deep stuff, but it's, I'm sure you'll find it to be very interesting. The direct descent of the essential program of the esoteric schools was entrusted to groups already well conditioned for the work. The guilds, trade unions, similar protective and benevolent societies have been internally strengthened by the introduction of a new learning. The advancement of the plan required the enlargement of the boundaries of the philosophic overstate. A world fraternity was needed, sustained by a deep and broad program of education according to the method. Such a fraternity could not immediately include all men, but it could unite the activities of certain kinds of men, regardless of their racial or religious beliefs, or the nations in which they dwelt. And here's the point. These were the men of towardness, the sons of tomorrow, whose symbol was a blazing sun rising over the mountains of the east. So it's talking about the Masonic Orders of Fraternity, and they were saying that if we're going to form a world conspiracy, you can't bring all the people into it at one time, but we could pick out certain people from different races and different groups who have learned how to go along to get along and know what to kiss and when, you know, and have proven themselves that they love the money and the women and all the other fun things that go with being on the in crowd. And we know we can buy them. So we can begin a new learning. An advancement of the plan required an enlargement of the boundaries of philosophic overstate. A world fraternity was needed, sustained by a deep and broad program of education. We got to teach all these people what to kiss and when and what all, you know, how to do it and how not to do it and what to believe and what to think and how to think. And that's what we're going to call education. And we're going to send them to school, right? And when they come out, they'll know exactly what to do and what not to do. And don't ask no questions. That's right. Then it says, these were the men of towardness. Now what I'm doing right now is I'm sharing with you something I haven't even gone into very much, because I'm getting ready to do a major story on this. I'm going to do a major story on this one. So I'm kind of breaking you in on some of the stuff I'm going to do. These were men of towardness, the sons of tomorrow, and here it is, whose symbol was the blazing sun rising over the mountains of the east. So the people who are putting this all together, they were called the men of towardness. Why? Because they've always been working towards something.
Where you travel.
That's right. They're always working toward. The Freemasons and the bankers, every day, they just work along. They don't hurry. They're not sweating. They're just working every day. They're working toward that wonderful day, when that day will come when the whole world will finally be on their knees and they will finally have you where they want you. And it may take 100 years, it may take 300 years, it don't matter. They just every day are doing their thing, working toward the day when they're going to own you. Okay, so they're called men of towardness and the sons of tomorrow, whose symbol was a blazing sun rising over the mountains of the east. Don't forget that. Their symbol is the blazing sun rising over the mountains of the east. While it is difficult to trace the elements of a pattern never intended to be obvious, the broad shape of a design is dimly apparent, the invisible empire. So what it's saying is that if it's hard to figure out, it's supposed to be hard to figure out. Not supposed to be easy. But you do your homework, it'll all start to fall into place. It'll all start to make sense. Here we have from the old Assyrian Babylonian mythology, the sunrise. And remember, I told you the Semitic theology, Semitic Freemasonry goes back to the old Phoenician, Canaanite, Assyrian. And here is the sunrise. The god Shamash appears above the mountains of the east. Remember we talked about the blazing sun rising over the mountains of the east? As far back as the Assyrian Babylonian mythology, they had the god Shamash appears above the mountains of the east, while his two servants open the heavy eastern gates. Here in the Israelites are going toward the sun over the mountains of the east. Here in Hebrew Freemasonry, you'll see the Bible, the square and the compass, and the rising sun. Here in the book, 9.5 Mystics, the Kabbalah today, we have chapter 9 is the way of one who is caught between the suns of a dying and a dawning day. So when you talk about the Hebrew Kabbalah, chapter 9 is the way of one who is caught between the suns. One sun is the dying and the one sun is the dawning day. So it's the sun of the old sun who's dying and the new sun who's coming. Here is the chair that George Washington sat in when signing all the documents to found this country. And up here, here it is. So this is the same. Here's the chair with the sun. See the sunrise on it? But now at length I have the happiness to know, says Washington, that it is a rising and not a setting sun. Remember, the one who's caught between the suns. And he's saying, now I'm happy to see that what we're doing is we're working on the rising sun instead of the setting sun, because I thought we were dead, but maybe we're on our way up then, right? So these are the priceless relics of the Constitutional Congress, the rising sun chair, used by George Washington. So he said it is a rising and not a setting sun. Here is from the Encyclopedia Britannica an article on Russia. And down here I photocopied this, enlarged it. So this is taken from the encyclopedia, and this is the flag of Russia, and this is the Soviet Union's coat of arms. Okay? Here's what the coat of arms says. First of all, the flag of Russia is the red stands for revolution. Of course, it goes back to Rothschild, red shield. Rothschild is red shield. But the coat of arms, what do you see there? The sun coming up again. The coat of arms carries the motto, "Workers of all countries unite." The hammer and the sickle represents the spread of communism. Now watch this. You see the sun, the rising sun is a symbol of the dawning of the new day of communism. Now you're going to see how important this is real soon. Because we're talking about God's Son who's going to come back and bring the kingdom. God's Son. Well, just get ready. The coat of arms, the Soviet Communist coat of arms, the sun rising on the earth, it says the rising sun is a symbol, and these are important words, that's why I'm rereading them, is a symbol of the what? What is that word? The dawning of the new day, end quote. Okay? Now can we have the lights for 1 minute? Not two, just one. Jimmy Carter, on the back, when he was inaugurated, he said, "I see the sun rising on a beautiful new day." Okay? Uh-huh. And when did he say this? "I see the sun rising on a beautiful new day, on a beautiful new spirit." And when did he say this? Dawn. The dawn of November 3rd. D-A-W-N.
Okay, that.
He got up early so he could see the sunrise and gave a speech in which he said, "I see the sun rising on a beautiful new day." As a ritual.
Let them know that he's in tune.
That's it. You let the boss know that you understand. Okay? I see the sun rising on a new day. That's right, the new day of world communism.
Excuse me. Does that have any significance with a lot of the corporations now hiring the former KGB agents and security?
Precisely.
And
that's right.
Companies that we work for?
Mm-hmm. That's right, a new day of communism. See, communism is not dead, it has mutated.
Which companies
do
that? Are you talking about
You want me to name a couple?
the American companies or the Russian companies?
There's all kinds of companies that are doing that.
IBM, Coca-Cola,
Yeah.
AT&T,
Yeah.
all the major corporations.
They help set up.
And so that means, does it mean that if the martial law, whatever, they get ready to make a move, they won't have any?
Well, no. I'll tell you what it means. In my other slides, I will show you what that means.
Okay.
Well, just keep that question in mind. I'll show you what it means. But I wanted to bring out and call your attention to, and I can do it more yet, but I just want to call your attention to the sun rising is a symbol of the dawning of the new day of communism. And Jimmy was so proud to say, "I see the sun rising on a beautiful new day." That's because you know who he is, and you know who he's working for. So if you think that he's acting like a communist and all this is a totalitarian state you live in, you damn right it is.
Well, how does Habitat for Humanity, what he's doing?
That's what communists always do. The Communist Party is always out there for the working man. The poor working folks, the poor folks, he's always out there to help the poor folks. This way they're going to even be poor when he gets through with them.
Give your baby some shots.
Yep.
You know, when Bush lost to Clinton, he said it's the same game, just pass the ball.
That's it. It's my time now. That's right.
I heard that houses that they built for the people, that if you die, it goes back to the either Jimmy Carter or the people that own it.
Sure.
So therefore, all the work that you put into it, you're really not gaining anything from it.
That's all right. That's the way it is in life. That's it. Well, that's the way it is right now. You do all you want out there. You don't own nothing. You don't know nothing. If you don't have Lodial title on anything, you don't know nothing. There's a world of difference between getting a title.
Really not doing anything.
No, I know.
So, you know, it may make it seem like he's doing something, but all the money is going to go back to either him or his family.
That's right.
That own it.
That's why New Day was put in quotation marks.
That's right. So-called New Day.
There's one important thing on the loading. If you create the loading title, or you go get one from the person who's trying to own your property.
No, you have to get it when you buy something. If you buy a car, you have to, you have to get it from the company. Well, whoever you buy something from, you have to buy it and get a Lodial title, and they can give you a Lodial title. They just don't let nobody know you can do that. But if you buy a new car, you can get a Lodial title. If you buy a home, you can get a Lodial. No, it's different. But I'm talking about if you're buying something, you need a Lodial title. Okay, I just wanted to throw that little piece in. I got a lot more on Jimmy, but that's just a little quickie I want to throw in and let you know where he's coming from. So Jimmy sees the sun rising on a new day, and so do I. And Jimmy understands what it really means, and so do I. Now here we have, this is interesting, that this symbol came out for the Soviet Union right around 1937, 38, 39. Okay? Before, this symbol here for the Soviet Union came out into public use about 1938, 39. All right? And in 1939, 38, 39, when this symbol came out with this stuff here, the new day of communism, the dawning of a new day, when this came out in 1939, the big shots in New York had a big party, and they called it the World's Fair. And in the World's Fair, the symbol was the dawn of a new day. The New York World's Fair. And that's right, there it is, the dawning of the new day of communism. And here it is, the new day. And that's the New York World's Fair. New York is the Empire State, remember? The Empire Strikes Back. Well, who's doing the striking? The Jedi Knight. The Jedi Knight who is fighting with light, intellectual, spiritual light. And if you don't understand spiritual enlightenment, that's what the Jedi Knights are fighting with, intellectual, spiritual enlightenment. And Darth Vader, he's wearing the Nazi helmet, speaking through the pyramid.
So what is the Jedi Knight?
The Knights Templars, the Knights of St. John of the Temple. Yeah, going back to the old Knights of Malta, the old Roman, Nazi Roman. Remember Adolf Hitler's, in the Second World War, Adolf Hitler was in league with Mussolini of Italy and the Pope was signed concordance and contracts with the Pope.
So
Adolf Hitler did.
So you're saying that the Knights Templars is fighting Nazis?
Yeah, the Knights Templars were the brains behind the Nazi Party. Yeah.
But they were supposed to fight against one another.
Yeah, I know. That's right. That's what I'm going to get into later, showing you how all of this stuff was set up purposely. The different sides were set up purposely to fight each other. Oh, yeah. Well, that's how come he gets to be Spielberg. He's not stupid. There's that sun of enlightenment coming up again. In Russia, there they are, all the poor people waiting for the sun to rise on the new day. Yeah. And here's the Peace Festival at Lenin Stadium in Moscow. Now here is the, so this is a $50, I think. The Liberty Dollar? Is this the Liberty Dollar? Yeah, Liberty Dollar. This is the American Liberty Dollar, okay? And here's Liberty walking toward what? Sun. With the crown of thorns, incidentally. And the book says she is moving what? Toward the dawn of a new day. So all of our coins celebrated the coming of world communism. Now here's Charles Tez Russell, founded Jehovah's Witnesses, and he's out there preaching to the poor Jehovah's Witnesses that the new day is dawning. The new day. Everybody get ready for the new day to get on your knees and bow down and worship Jehovah, the God of the British Israel Hebrew Freemasonry. Jehovah. That's Freemasonry. Semitic British Freemasonry. But now, in my book, he is. Here's Jehovah's Witnesses. See the Watchtower and Bible Tract Society? Where you see the sun coming up between the mountains of the east. And what are they talking about? The government that will bring peace. And that's right. They will bring peace. Yeah. As a matter of fact, the New World Order is going to be so peaceful that if you get out of line, you're going to jail.
They'll pacify you.
That's right. And of course, if you really get out of line, then they're going to really make it peaceful. They're going to kill you. Cemeteries are real peaceful. So if anybody gets out of line, they're going to make sure it's going to be plenty peaceful. Cut your head off. If you've got any ideas about thinking about fighting this or demanding your freedom and liberty, you don't have no more freedom and liberty. From here on out, we're going to have a perfect paradise government in New York. And as long as you understand who the boss is, everything's going to be cool. And everybody's going to work for the Union. Soviet Union, the Labor Union, and the New York Union. British Union. Now here's a Christian distributors in California, the Christian distributors. They distribute all the Christian literature, and they call the New Day Christian Distributors, with the sun coming up over the mountains of the east. So all the Christians going to the Christian bookstores, and they're getting all the materials from Christianity, and they don't realize that the company is called the New Day, bringing the sun over the mountains of the east. Now who do you think would be supplying all that Christian literature to the Christian churches? Here's Richard Nixon. When he was president, he had a medallion struck for himself, and he's called the New Day for America, a new dawn for peace. New day and the new dawn. Of course, he tripped up a little bit and screwed up.
Yeah, made somebody upset.
Yeah, he made somebody mad, screwed up. So they said, "Fool, you ain't gonna see no new dawn. You going home now. You ain't gonna see no new day." Yeah, him and BB. Now here in the movie 2010, if you remember 2001, that's the shape of the United Nations building. It's called the Smooth Ashlar in Freemasonry.
Oh yeah.
That's the UN building. And it's called the Smooth Ashlar. A smooth ashlar is a stone, a black stone. It has to do with the black stone of Mecca. The Kaaba. Right.
All the black stones that were in the doorway of all Egyptian temples.
That's exactly it. And that's why it's in the meditation room of the UN, of the United Nations, the black stone. Now here in a magazine, a cartoon magazine, on the, taken from this one, this magazine here, 2010, up here shows the sunrise in Egypt. No, this is in Washington, D.C. And here it is, the sunrise in Soviet Union. And here it is in Egypt. And then down here, you will see the UN building, perched upon, or sitting upon the waters of the nations, which water always represented the people. So the United Nations is perched upon the waters of the nations, or the waters of people. And down here in the bottom, it says, and unlike on Europa, a new day, unlike any before, dawns. A new day dawns. For the United Nations now rules the whole world, and it sits on many waters. Like the Bible says, it sits on many waters. Which means that it will one day take over the entire world, and we will be in a world communist state. And we will never, ever know how it happened. Because we were praying to the Lord all the time, and never figured out how it happened.
With your eyes closed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a warning from the landlord. Here we have from Liberia. That's it. That's it. And there's Liberia, state arms of Liberia. See the sun? And also the sun, which heralds a new day. There it is. The sun is heralding a new day for Liberia. Here is Romania. And here's the national coat of arms, the state arms for Romania. And you see the sun coming up? The sun, rising sun, expresses the promise of a new day. There it is. The sun rising over the mountains of the east expresses the promise of a new day. Here's Mongolia. There is the guy riding on the horse toward the mountain with the sun. The horseman racing into the sun. This stands for the nation's advance toward communism. That's Jimmy said, I see a new day dawning. Yeah, because he's helping advance our country into communism.
Pale horse.
That's it. I hate to tell you that, but it is the pale horse. Here's Malawi. Okay, Malawi. Malawi added the sun to symbolize the dawning of a new day for Africa. There it is. Masonic Freemasonry moved into Malawi. And the people never saw it coming. They didn't understand it, had no idea what it meant. It just meant the symbolizing of a dawning of a new day for Africa. Afghanistan, same thing, sun dawning. The main elements is the rising sun. Now here are class rings for high school and college kids. Class rings. See them standing there seeing the sun coming up over the mountains of the east? These are class rings you get for high school. Sun coming up. This one's called a new dawning. See the sun coming up for the new dawning. Here's another one. The sun coming up over the mountains of the east.
These same people are the ones that control education.
Bet on it. Reaching for tomorrow. Remember those sons of tomorrow? The sons of tomorrow. What do you see? The sunrise over the mountains of the east. Behold, a new dawn. A new dawning. Yeah, behold, a new dawn. Reaching for tomorrow. That's right, but those are kids' rings. High school and college. No, it looks like an angel. Yeah, it could be, but it's the looks like a bird, and but it could be the fish too. Yeah. Now here is a book you have right up here. Excellent book. I just pointed it out to somebody over here. It's right here. It's called Secret Societies and Subversive Movements. Excellent book. If there's a copy left over here, you ought to get it because it's sensational. Here, see again, I told you it was from the Christian Book Club of America. So you can write them and they'll, you know, But anyway, here's The Secret Societies and Subversive Movements by Nesta Webster. And in it, she's quoting this lady who was a member of the Aleister Crowley group. The Aleister Crowley group was called Stella Matritina in England. And this one lady who was a member of Stella Matritina came out of it, and Nesta Webster was interviewing her. And she said, the lady said, the same initiate has communicated to me, this is Nesta Webster talking, the same lady or the same initiate has communicated to me the following conclusions concerning the group in question, with the permission to quote them verbatim. The lady who was a part of the Stella Matritina in England said, I have been convinced that we as an order have come under the power of some very evil occult order profoundly versed in science, both occult and otherwise, though not infallible, their methods being black magic, that is to say electromagnetic power, hypnotism, and powerful suggestion. And here is the point. We are convinced that the order, that's the Stella Matritina order in England, we are convinced that the order is being controlled by some sun order, after the nature of the Illuminati, if not by that order itself. Some kind of sun order? Right. So there is a sun order. An order of the sun. That goes back to Egypt. The ancient order of the sun. Exactly. In ancient Egypt. And there were priesthoods of the sun. And then there were other priesthoods who came in, and the Knights Templars and the Masonic Lodge picked all of this stuff up from the Egyptians and rewove it into a new deal. A new deal.
So it's a rise and fall, rise and fall.
Well, it goes back to the sun, the rising and the setting of the sun. And the two suns, the sun of the, you know, how he said, between the two suns, one empire is going and another is coming up, which shows that there is a connection between the fall of one nation and the rise of another. It's not by chance. It's all being orchestrated by something that she calls a sun order. And that's what they call Freemasonry, a sun order. And a while ago I showed you how the sun has two wings, left wing and right wing. Therefore you got left wing politics and right wing politics. You got the right wing and the left wing. Of course, that's what the sun has, is two wings.
Somewhere you said that you don't think this is going to work. So if it fails, will it rise again?
I don't know.
100 years, 100 years.
Probably.
It will just continue trying until...
Yeah, I think
between good and evil.
yeah, it's the battle between, yeah.
Truth and false. That's right.
Yeah. Now I got my own idea about why that is. I have my own theory on as to why it is that 500 years from today we'll still be fighting the same battle. They'll be doing it a different way, but we'll still be fighting them the same way. The poor people, the working class people will still be fighting the manipulating people who are manipulating and exploiting and keeping everybody else ignorant and stupid and using them and abusing them. There's always been that war. You go back into ancient history, there's always been that few that exploit the many. And it may not ever stop, I don't know.
It's always been ignorance.
Yeah, it's always been used to ignorance.
Parasite is always weaker than the whole.
That's it. But I got a theory about why it's happening like this and why it will always happen. But that's just my personal spiritual belief. Now, here's a classic example of how symbols are used in churches. Now watch this. We have a cross and the crown in Christianity. Here it is again on the Bible, the cross and the crown. It's on the Holy Bible, okay? Here in that book again of Freemasonry, we will see the cross and the crown. Okay? Now, keeping in mind you've got the Bible here and the cross and the crown there, and this is from that encyclopedia on Freemasonry, remember? Okay. Here we have the first 3 degrees of Freemasonry, first, second, and third degree. That's why when you go into a court, they're going to give you the third degree. Now, over here you got the Scottish Rite and the York Rite. Here is the Royal Archmason, or the Mark Mason. It's called Mark Mason, the Royal Archmason with the triangle and the circle. Then you got the Order of the Red Cross. So when you hear about the Red Cross doing this and the Red Cross doing that, and give money to the Red Cross, just remember when you give money to the Red Cross, who you're giving it to. You're giving it to the York Rite Freemasons in New York. Yeah, and they need your money like they need another hole in the head.
The Red Cross own one of the, they manufacture one of the most well-known sniper rifles in the world.
Oh, really?
Single arms in Sweden.
The Red Cross?
Red Cross on
Well, that's great. That makes me feel warm all over. Yeah, that's it. That's the twin Felix.
Yeah, the twin Felix.
Coming and going, they're going to get you. Now up here we have the York Rite of Freemasonry from New York, or York, England, okay? Now here is the symbol, the highest you can go in the York Rite, okay? You see, this is the Scottish Rite, and this is the York Rite. The Scottish Rite has 33 degrees. That's because Jesus supposedly died at 33. That's why it has 33rd degree. But the York Rite, the highest you can go in the York Rite, is called the Order of Knights Templar of the York Rite Freemasonry, okay? What is that symbol? That's the cross and the crown. You've already seen it on the front of the blue book on Freemasonry. Now remember that, cross and the crown, and remember it's the York Rite Freemasonry. Here it is again, a book called Pilgrimage to Virginia of the Knights Templars. And what do you see? The Star of David with the Masonic handshake. And over here, the cross and the crown. We're talking about the Knights Templars. The cross and the crown of Freemasonry. Here on Jehovah's Witnesses, the Watchtower, you'll see up here in the corner, there's a sun rising. Yeah, that's it. There it is. And here's the sun rising over the mountain with the cross and the crown. Here's the Cross and the Crown Lutheran Church. Here is the Cross and the Crown and magazines. Here's the minister with this cross and the crown on the red cloth, the cross and the crown. Yeah, there he is. This nice all-American boy serving the Rothschild of the red shield on the cross and the crown, and everybody going to church thinking they're worshiping the Lord. And they are, Lord Rothschild. The landlord. Here's Christian Science. Christian Science, their symbol is the cross and the crown. It's everywhere. Here it is. Using as a wedding band, simply as a testimony of your commitment to Christ. And there you see the cross and the crown. There it is again. Now here is the Methodist Hospital of Southern California, and there he is, Methodist Hospital of. That's why the Knights Hospitallers, they call them the Knights Hospitallers. Again, you have the cross and the crown. Here is a church in Van Nuys in California by me, the Community Bible Church. And this little circle right here There it is. 12 signs of the zodiac, and in the middle there's the cross and the crown. Now here's the Santa Anita Apostolic Church. Santa Anita Apostolic Church, and there it is, cross and the crown. Here it is again. Here it is again up here at the top, see it? So people going into church, they think all that is so holy, but they better look up here. You better see who it's, you better see what they're doing here. Now, here is something called the 90 and the 60 degree square of Freemasonry. I never do get these right. There's a 90 and a 60 degree. Anyway, this is the square of Freemasonry. Okay, there's the I in the dollar bill. But anyway, here is the square of Freemasonry. But around their necks, they're wearing squares also. See the Freemasons wearing the squares around the neck?
How come we got all the different symbols up there at the top? Like
yeah, this is from an encyclopedia. These are all the different Masonic lodges on the different continents.
Okay, go back to the fourth one, the triangle and the circle.
Oh.
For a moment, all of our bottles and food and everything now has that. Even the football players' jerseys have that. So that means that that's...
I told you that was the symbol of York Rite.
Right.
Freemasonry.
Does that mean that they're doing anything to your food in particular? Because everything doesn't have it, but most things do.
And most likely, before the year 2000, everything's going to have it. See, they're starting little by little by little to add it to this, add it to that, add it to this. Yeah, and then next week they add it to this, and next week they add it to that. And before you know it, one day you're going to wake up and you can't even go to the bathroom that is in the triangle and the circle everywhere. You walk into any restrooms and in the restaurants, they're all triangles and circles.
So they haven't chosen by 1, 2, 3 in order what they want to put it on.
Well, I don't know.
They're choosing it randomly, or?
No, I don't think nothing is happening random. No, nothing happens random.
People,
they control them.
If you're going to get up in high in anything, if you're not in masonry, you're not going too high.
That's it. And if you're going to open up, if you're going to have a building, you're going to finance the building of a building, and you get an architect, architects are Freemasons. That's it. So, if you're going to get money to build something, you got to get it from the bank. Banks are Freemasons. After you get the money, you're going to have architects build the building. Architects are Freemasons. You got to buy all the raw materials, the bricks and everything. That's who sells them, is Freemasons. Then you got to get people, the laborers that come out from the unions. That's Freemasonry. And when you get the check and dig it down the bank, that's Freemasonry. So the bottom line is, you ain't doing business in this country unless you do it with Freemasonry. That's it.
What is the symbolism in the aprons again? The aprons they're wearing?
The apron is the lamb's skin. It goes back to the lamb's skin. That's why when you graduate from college, you get the lamb's skin diploma. It's the lamb's skin. It goes back to Egypt. Anyway, there are two kinds of squares in Freemasonry. This is one square. I think this is the 90-degree square, and these are the 60-degree square. Okay, now I'm drawing attention to two kinds of squares. 90-degree and the 60-degree. Here's the 90-degree on the dollar bill, see? That's the 90-degree square. And that's this 90-degree square on the dollar bill. Now here it is. See the 90-degree square and 60-degree square. And that's connected to, of course, the Star of David. But check this out. You got 90-degree and the 60-degree square.
What's the significance of that?
Well, you'll see in just a minute. The difference between, now here is a 60-degree square, right? And see the Freemasons wearing the 60-degree square around their neck? That's why in the Olympics, when you win a gold medal, you put the 60-degree square. Then, over here, 60-degree square, Freemasonry. And here is the 90-degree, and the 60-degree, and the 90-degree, and the church choirs. That's right.
I mean, all the Masonic don't have this stronghold for the Olympics.
That's right. And so when you see, and you go in the churches, you see the choirs, and they're all singing, but all of them have the 60 and the 90-degree square. And they're singing the praises to the Lord. And the Lord just happens to be the big penis. Now here we got the square within the Masonic circle, the square within the circle. Sometimes the circle's within the square, but usually it's the square within the circle. And here the three-ring circle, and the square represents the universe. The square has 4 gates and is divided into 4 triangles, which indicates the cosmic direction, the elements and the visible and invisible qualities of deity commanding the center. The square with 4 triangles within the circle. That's exactly what you get when you look down on the Washington Monument, is the triangle within the Masonic circle. Okay? And they show you this way because you got the black triangle as opposed to the white triangle. You pull the two together, comes the Star of David within the Masonic circle. Here's the Kaaba, the black square. It's called in Freemasonry the perfect stone, or the mystic cube. The mystic cube is a symbol of the Illuminati. The truth cube, or the mystic cube, is called the perfect stone, or the mystic cube. It's connected to the Illuminati and the Freemasons. Again, it's the square within the circle. The square within the circle. Now we got the little Masonic library has Mormons and Freemasonry. There's Mormons and Freemasonry. Mormon church is nothing but Freemasonry. Mormons and Freemasonry. Mormons and Masonry. Freemasonry and the Book of Mormons. Zion's Park. That's why you got Zion's National Park. The Great White Throne, Zion's National Park. Great White Throne. Yeah. Okay, again we go back to the red rose, which is the Tuta Rose of England, the symbol for world socialism. Now here's the Queen of England with some pornographer or murderer or something, I don't know who he is. Some, yeah, all the above. Some drug pusher or something.
Well, both of them are drug pushers.
Oh yeah, they both are. But he's proud to show you his red rose. Here's Castro with his rose. It looks a little wilted. But so is his country.
He's falling from grace.
Huh?
He's falling from grace.
Oh, I guess maybe. Yeah, I think so. There's the, here was the Communist Party chief that Yeltsin overthrew. And there he is with his red rose. Here is the guy called the Butcher of the Balkans. There he is waving his red rose for world socialism. is Clinton in front of a poster at the White House in the Time magazine. Time magazine has Clinton posing in front of a poster, and see what he has in his left hand?
Yeah, that brick road is supposed to symbolize socialism. It's supposed to symbolize socialism.
Yeah, yeah, that's what the red road symbolizes. Communist Party boss. Symbolizes world.
Soften up the message.
Yeah. Goes back to the red Rosicrucianism. It's called.
Another sign to let everybody know that he's on their side.
Exactly. Exactly. That's a little symbol to let everybody know. All the big shots in the world will know that he has taken over the Oval Office for the British Israel World Federation of Freemasonry, the World Socialist.
In other words, he's been plowed.
That's it.
While you're looking at Clinton, what's the significance of the drive-by shootings? Was he messing up and they had to send him a subtle message? What?
It could be that it could be some of the opposing parties don't like him. Who knows? No, I'm sure it's not the people.
The White House, they shot at it with an SKS, and that's the rifle that they want to take away because the country's been flooded with SKS.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense.
And
that makes more sense than.
And Gore came on the next night talking about gun control and said, by the way, the gun that the gunman used was an SKS, semi-automatic.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that makes sense to me.
And the one that went in with the airplane, they were both in the same outfit and army.
Okay, so they had a connection right there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Run that back.
Was that Joe Campbell? Joe Campbell.
No, wait a minute. Now, that's just a goof, or you think that it means something?
There ain't nothing happening.
Nothing happening by chance. When you understand that the tobacco companies in this country are owned by the British, the English owners. They have always been the back east. I mean, yeah, I'm back east now. There's always been the British who own the tobacco plantations. That's why we have the pyramids now on the Mississippi. Because the Mississippi is the new Nile for America's the new Egypt, and Mississippi is the new Nile. That's why you got all those different cities on the Nile that are now on the Mississippi, like Memphis and Tupelo.
That's why they're filling in.
Yeah, because America is the new Egypt. The secret societies of Freemasonry call America the new Egypt, with the pyramid on the back of the dollar bill and the Washington Monument. Here's the pyramid at the Louvre Museum. Arco is the pyramid with the Arco is the pyramid from above with no capstone. Goes back to Jason and the Argonauts. Right. I'll go past this. Now we get to the. There again we have the rising sun symbol again. The rising sun on the shell. The double square of Freemasonry. Here we got an intertwining, the interweaving of order and disorder. 90-degree and the 45-degree angles, which ultimately create a harmonious design. So you got the double square of Freemasonry. Here it is again. There's the double square, order and disorder.
Chevron, bring that back. Chevron.
Yeah, you'll see that in a minute. Here it is again, the double square in Parliament in England. Remember, the double square symbolizes bringing order and disorder. There she is, the Queen. On her crown, she's wearing the Knights of Malta cross, the square, the double, it's the square, but it's the Maltese cross. Here's the double cross of Eastern Orthodox religion, the double cross. Yeah. Double. Then we got the mystic star, the seven-pointed star. There's a seven-pointed star, 7 points. Here it is again, Masonic Orders of Fraternity with the mystic star. The Golden Dawn Enochian Magic of England uses a seven-pointed star. Highway Patrol uses a seven-pointed star. Police departments use a seven-pointed star. There's something called the origin and significance of the Magen David. The origin and significance of the Star of David. Star of David goes back to Jerusalem with the cult of the planet Saturn. I told you one of the ancient cults in Jerusalem was the planet Saturn. They worshipped the planet Saturn, and consequently all the women were supposed to listen to their god Saturn. So they would wear the Saturnalian ring, the ear ring. And men were supposed to get married before their god, so they would wear their wedding ring. Kings were to be crowned by the god Saturn, so they wear the round crown of the ring of Saturn. Here's the symbol of the sun in the ancient Hindu. The ancient Hindu symbol of the sun. And that's the Star of David in the circle. So the Jews can't tell me that that's the Star of David. No, that's a Hindu. It's around thousands of years before David. Yeah, before David was. Now here's the Los Angeles, the Century City, the ABC Towers over here. You see the two towers are triangles pointed in.
One of Atlantis skyline.
Yeah, boy. It's just crawling with stuff, man. Just crawling with triangles and circles and circle in the triangle, huh? Oh, no, here, Atlanta. But this is in LA. But the point is, this is ABC Towers. This is ABC television. And the two towers, the ABC towers, are triangles pointed together. So when you bring the two together, it comes the Star of David. Now, here you have the five-pointed pentagram. Penta means five. So you have the five-pointed pentagram. If you take the arms off of the five-pointed star, take the arms off, in the middle you got a pentagon. The five-pointed star is a pentagram, and take the arms off, it's a pentagon. That's why the United States has a pentagon.
And one of the biggest defense contractors is Chrysler.
Is Chrysler, and that's why they can use the pentagon as their symbol on Chrysler. Because they are the biggest contractor for the Pentagon is Chrysler. Precisely, exactly.
They also think that they use
federal government. Federal government bailed Chrysler out because now they own them. Because the Constitution says anything that the federal government finances, it must control. So therefore, when they made sure that Chrysler went broke so that they could come in and finance them and buy them out. So now the Chrysler does not have to charge the federal government for all those tanks and half-tracks and jeeps in case of another war. The federal government's already bought Chrysler. That's right. So they let Lee Iacocca build it back up and give him his money for going along to get along. Now, generally, the inverted pentagram is regarded as representing evil. The inverted with the point pointing down. Generally, the one that has the point pointing down is the inverted pentagram is regarded as representing evil. Okay? That's Anton LaVey, the head of the Satanist Church. Here it is again, the devil with the inverted pentagram pointing down. Oh, it's a bee, a beetle or bee or something, yeah. Fly, yeah. That's right, it goes back to Beelzebub, Lord of the Flies.
Okay, what is that, 15, the devil?
Huh?
15?
That's the number of the card. It's just but the point I'm making here is that the inverted pentagram is regarded as representing evil, pointing down. Now here in New York, at the first synagogue of the congregation of B'nai B'rith in New York, you will see the...
Where is this? Yeah, no.
Yeah, the B'nai B'rith congregation in New York. Now here is the Sovereign Grand Commander's flag of Freemasonry, the Mother Lodge. And on it you will see Ordo Ab Chao, which is translated order out of chaos. Order means you've got control. That's why in the television show Get Smart, remember Get Smart? And the two sides in Get Smart, one was chaos and one was control. Because that's the way you get control, is causing chaos.
Well, we got chaos now.
That's right, you got chaos. Well, you have chaos because the government wants it.
Right.
So that they can come in and get control. See, they start the riot. They pay the rioters to start the riot, then they got to come in and put it down. Right. That thing in that thing in Los Angeles, that riot, that was all financed by the government. Anyway, you always get the order out of chaos. 33rd degree, of course, is because Jesus was said to have died at 33. There's no wrong with that. From chaos to control. And that was the two sides in Get Smart, chaos and control. Here is a magazine, a book on Freemasonry in Europe, the European Masonic orders. And here they are, the different orders of Freemasonry in Europe. And up here you will see the two symbolic headdresses. The same headdress that the High Priest of Israel is wearing is the same headdress here. And here's the Pope, who was one of the orders of Freemasonry, all these different orders, and here's the Pope. Yeah, there he is. With the dagger and the all-seeing eye. Here's something called the Chapter Jewels, taken out of a reference book on Freemasonry, and the High Priest jewel of Freemasonry, the High Priest jewel, is the papacy, the Pope's headdress. He is the High Priest of Freemasonry. Here's the Jewish High Priest, or the Hebrew High Priest, and you will see him holding the fleur-de-lis in his hand, the fleur-de-lis, and wearing the Pope's headdress. Why would the Hebrew High Priest be wearing the Pope's headdress? Well, the same reason why the Pope wears the yarmulke. Here is a apron, right, from Freemasonry. And there's the Pope on the apron, with the others who are wearing the black square on their heads. That's when you graduate, you wear the black square. See, when you graduate, you wear that black square on your head. That's because the brick masons, the plasterers and the brick masons use something called a, what do you call it? The trial and square. And the square they hold their hand and put the cement on. They take the trowel and put the mud on the wall. So when they're building a wall, they use that square, and it's a black square. That's what the black square you wear on your head when you graduate. Because the colleges and universities are run, financed, organized, and directed by Freemasons. That's right, the martyr board. You wear it on your head. Well, and then when you find out who owns Coca-Cola, that's it. And there's the Pope up there with him. And then you got the Royal Arch. Now here it is. This is the Royal Arch chapter of Freemasonry. Note the headdress of the principals, the Royal Arch chapter. Okay, there he is. That's why you have 6 stones on one side and 6 stones on the other, and this stone here is the keystone. It's right in the middle, and it's called, in any arch you always have the same amount of stones on one side as the same amount on the other, and then you have one in the middle that holds it together, and that one in the middle is called the keystone, and it is the keystone for the arch. That's why Pennsylvania is called the Keystone State, because it's the 13th colony. There were 6, and 6 is 12, and the one in the middle makes 13, and it was the Keystone State. So it was the keystone for the Royal Arch Chapter Masons, who founded the whole thing. So when you get back to the Eye of God overseeing the Star of David, you're talking about the Royal Arch Chapter. The Royal Arch. And here is the man who gave Freemasonry the Royal Arch degree. His name was St. Louis. St. Louis was the Freemason who gave to Freemasonry something called the Royal Arch degree in Jerusalem. And that's why we have the Royal Arch in St. Louis, for the Royal Arch degree of Freemasonry. We have something called the Royal Arch Chapter. Royal Arch Chapter of the Grand Lodge Freemasonry. It's a particular kind of Freemasonry. And that particular kind of Freemasonry is called the Royal Arch Chapter. And the Pope, and the man who developed the thing called Royal Arch Chapter was St. Louis at Jerusalem. St. Louis, the Mason, went to Jerusalem and developed what was called the Royal Arch Chapter of Freemasonry in Jerusalem. And that's why you have the Royal Arch today in St. Louis. They don't build this stuff by chance. They don't put that kind of money. They don't build stuff like this and put that kind of money and that kind of architect just to make it because it's pretty.
That's similar to the Golden Arch.
That's it. McDonald. That's right. Now here's something called the summit of the arch. Now, this was taken from a State Department bulletin, United States State Department bulletin called the summit of the arch. And here's a picture from that bulletin from the State Department. The glass pyramid at the summit of the arch. See, at the summit of the arch, and this is in Paris, France, at the Louvre Museum, in front of the great glass pyramid is the glass pyramid when all the heads of state are meeting at the summit of the arch. Here's the Pope with all the dignitaries and all the ambassadors. And you'll notice that these ambassadors are all on their knees. And here's a Chinese, he's getting ready to go down to his knee too. Huh? No, ambassadors. When you're an ambassador to a nation, and your country sends you to another country as an ambassador, that's very bad politics for you to go down on your knees, because that's symbolism. They're not only superior to you, but they're like God to you. You go down on your knees. Now, any ambassador to the United States would send to the Vatican. If he goes on his knees, he should be shot in the back of the head, because that's bad politics. You don't send an ambassador. I mean, how would you like to send, if you were a leader of a gang and then sending a representative to another gang, and your representative goes down on his knees and prays to the other one? Say, man, get up off your knees. I didn't send you over here crawling on your knees representing me. Damn. What the hell are you doing crawling on your knees representing me? You represent me. That makes me look like I'm crawling on my knees. Right? So why are the ambassadors of all these nations on their knees? Because they know better. This is one time you better go on your knees. Not because he knows the Lord, but because he is the head of a very powerful, sinister, secret society of Freemasonry.
And they know that.
And they know that.
So they have to give him respect.
And normally, if we go from one king to another, they stand and talk. But if you go before this guy, you better get on your knees. Because this is some heavy-duty stuff here. That's Knights of Malta Freemasonry. This makes the mafia look like child's play here.
And that's the top of the Freemasonry.
Yeah. Yeah. Here it is again. The skull and the bones and the Pope wearing it and the... Here it is, the Pope. There's the King of England, the star of what's his name, the one that was killed, Jacques de Molay. Jacques de Molay with the Knights of Malta. And then we've got the Pope, the King of England, and Jacques de Molay. Adolf Hitler. The Nazis had the...
The U.S. still wear those as marksmanship.
That's right, I sure do. Here it is on churches, churches over here in Pasadena. They wear it on churches. Now here it is. This is the York Rite Freemasonry again, okay? Here we go. And if you climb up the ladder of Freemasonry, you get up here to the top, you got something called the Order of Knights Templars. Okay, and there again, you got the Red Cross, Order of the Temple. And over here, you'll see this cross. Okay, now watch this. You got this cross here. Okay, now watch. Here it is again. The Knights of Malta Cross. Here it is on the Masters of the Universe.
Stop you for a second.
Masters of the Universe.
Do they have did they dedicate an order for de Molay after he died?
Oh sure, absolutely. Jacques de Molay, when he was put to death in the 15th century, they made an order for young boys. It's called the de Molays.
Okay, somebody mentioned to me, and I was talking about 3 weeks ago, and they said that Jeffrey Dahmer and the son of Sam, their parents were involved with the de Molay school. I mean, they were part of that order.
Yeah, well, wouldn't surprise me none. All them crazy members of it.
So is that supposed to be a Freemason order?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's for young boys. Just for young boys. It's called de Molay. Now here it is again. Use our Masters of the Universe. Now, it's also, here it is again, okay? It's also used for the Los Angeles Fire Department uses it. Fascism. In most cases, fascists have come to power after a nation has suffered an economic collapse, a military defeat, or some other disaster. The fascist party wins mass support by promising to revive the economy and restore national pride. We're talking about fascism. Now watch. Fascism is severely limited under, personal liberty is severely limited under a fascist government. The government also controls newspapers, radios, and other means of communication. in its country. It issues propaganda to promote its policies. Opposition may lead to imprisonment, torture, or death. Here is a fasci. Here's the French Grand Orient Temple Masons dancing around the maypole, and that is a fasci. Fascism. Fascism was an authoritarian political movement developed in Italy and several other European countries in 1919. Fascism, its name was derived from the fasces, an ancient Roman symbol of authority consisting of a bundle of rods and an axe. So the fascism comes from, the name comes from, it's derived from the fasces, which is an ancient Roman symbol of authority consisting of a bundle of rods and an axe. There it is, the bundle of rods and an axe. Here it is on American coins, a bundle of rods with the axe. See it? Here it is on American coins. Here it is on the back of the dime, the Mercury head dime. Here it is in Congress. Right there.
On the wall.
See it right here? What is that? On both sides of the president. So when the president is standing here talking, there is the fasces. So if you think that this country is a fascist, racist country, that's because it is a fascist, racist country. About damn time you woke up and found out. Well, these people act like a bunch of fascists. That's because they are. See it? They just do what comes natural. That's right.
Another characteristic of a fascist government is that they are controlled by corporations.
That's it. That's a very important point. That's a very important point. There it is again. See it? Over here with this symbol here too. There it is, the fasci. So that's why and also the United States Senate. Here's the U.S. Senate. And what do you see down here?
And you wonder why they serve the corporations.
Even the playing cards has the fasces. Now we got the 13, there are 13 leaves, and there are 13 berries in the 13 leaves. 13 arrows, 13 stripes, there are 13 stars. 13 stars make up the Star of David, Shield of Solomon. Yeah, 13. I haven't counted them, but I was told that one wing has 32 degrees and the other has 33 feathers, 32 and 33. Then you have the Anuit Coeptus, which simply means our enterprise is now a success. Anuit Coeptus, our enterprise is crowned with success. And then you say, what enterprise is crowned with success? Novas Ordo Seclorum. Novas is novice, meaning new. Ordo is obviously order. And seclorium comes from the word, we get our word secular, meaning worldly. Secular job, secular education. Secular means of the world. The new order of the world. Our enterprise is now a success. That was put on there in 1933. When Roosevelt came out and said, we got a new deal. Now, the deal before was that you were an American and you were free. Now we got a new deal. The new deal is that we just bought you. You understand? We bought you for a price. So consequently, we now have the new deal. Our enterprise is now a success. Yeah, the new covenant, that has to do with this thing right here. And on the bottom of the pyramid, you'll see MDCCLXXVI, standing for 1776. There are 13 layers on the pyramid. Everything is done in sequence of 13 because of Jesus and the 12.
Jesus and the 12?
Jesus and his 12. The 12 disciples plus the master makes 13. That's why 13 is an unlucky number for you. Because that's a number that's used by the Illuminati. The 12 apostles plus the master makes 13. 13 is the unlucky number because it has to do with a very high form of occult magic, and you don't need to know nothing about it. So don't even use 13. It's unlucky for you. That's a number only the masters know and understand. So that's why 13 is unlucky. Now here is something interesting you probably have never seen ever. Have you seen this one before? Okay. Have you ever seen this on a dollar bill? See this little guy right here?
Yeah. Now, see the cross behind the one? See
There
the
he
cross
is.
behind the one?
Huh?
See the cross behind the one? You can barely make it out. It's because it got other lines in it. Right here. See, they add this into it.
Oh yeah,
Did
yeah.
it really well.
Oh, I got you.
You can see it. It's right
Yeah.
behind.
Yeah. Anyway, this little guy right here. Here he is.
That's a guy.
No, it's an owl. A little owl. It's a symbol of the Bohemian Society.
When is there any relationship between that and UZDE? You remember that became the mascot for the whole conservation effort of some UZDE? And then they started taking up the land and all.
Wouldn't surprise me none. It sure makes sense to me.
Has that always been there? Or
No.
they just put it
No,
there
no.
about 3 or 4 years ago?
No. They put it there about, I think about 20, 25 years ago, 20 years ago. Yeah. There's, that's Albert Pike. Yeah, Albert Pike, the Grand Master of World Freemasonry. Yeah. He was thinking to himself, boy, if you chumps knew half of the crap that we're doing. If you chumps ever found out what we were doing, you'd be real big time, disappointed. Yeah, I've been on mushrooms for 41 years. Here's what Rockefeller wrote. Rockefeller wrote this. Rockefeller wrote this in something called the Occasional Letter Number 1. He said, in our dreams we have limited resources and the people yield themselves with perfect docility to our molding hands. The present education conventions fade in our minds, and unhampered by tradition, we work our own goodwill upon a grateful and responsive rural folk. Yeah, we got unlimited resources, and people just love to do what we tell them.
Another name for rule is even.
This is interesting to me. The preface for the book, Brave New World. And in the preface for the book, Brave New World, back in 1948, the 1948 edition, we're talking about back in 1948, this was said, quote, as political and economic freedom diminishes, as the political and economic freedom diminishes, sexual freedom tends compensatingly to increase. And the dictator will do well to encourage that freedom in conjunction with the freedom to daydream under the influence of dope, the movies, and radio. It will help to reconcile his subjects to the servitude which is now their fate.
What is that in?
That was the preface to Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. By Aldous Huxley, Brave New World.
You can still get that?
Oh yeah, and this is the preface to it in 1948. So he's saying that the dictator We'll make sure you have plenty of narcotics, alcohol, sex, entertainment, basketball, ping pong ball, football, baseball, any ball, as long as you have a ball game, right? And a lot of sex, drugs, rock and roll, and whatever else it is you need to keep you occupied while we do a number on you and take away your political and economic freedom. Aldous Huxley. Aldous Huxley. Huxley. Aldous Huxley. It's a very famous book. All you need to do is just remember Brave New World. It's very famous. Yep, absolutely. Right. This is the one I'm going to conclude on. I could go on all night, but I'm not going to. This is the one we're going to conclude on. Here is from the California Legislature, 1953 regular session. Now this is back in 1953. Published by the Senate of the state of California. That's the 11th report, the Senate Investigating Committee on Education. Education in the state of California, published by the Senate. It says, I can't, wait a minute. I thought I had a better, well anyway. It says, so-called modern communism is apparently the same hypocritical and deadly world conspiracy to destroy civilization that was founded by the secret order of the Illuminati in Bavaria, May 1st, 1776. May Day. The World Revolution conspiracy appears to have been so well organized as to be ever continuing and ever on the alert to take advantage of every opportunity presenting itself or that the conspirators could create. So in other words, these guys at the top, they will take advantage of anything. If you get a black guy run over a white guy, they'll send somebody in, make something out of it. They'll say, that was planned, that was purpose, he did that purpose, and cause this division.
X's daughter's trial, or I think a court date is May the 1st.
Right, good. Is there symbolism there or what? Right. Well, now tell me if they ain't going to use that.
I think so.
They're going to use that. No matter what happens, they're going to use that one.
X's daughter's trial, or I think a court date is May the 1st.
Right, good. Is there symbolism there or what? Right. Well, now tell me if they ain't going to use that.
I think so.
They're going to use that. No matter what happens, they're going to use that one.
So that's supposed to be a signal to the other people to let them know what's going on?
Yeah, May 1st. Oh yeah, May 1st is a well, I'll show it to you. Anyway, it is significant in this connection that as early as 1783, when unsettled conditions and dissatisfaction in some quarters had arisen in the American colonies, subversive anonymous sermons were circulated among the colonial army to incite dissatisfaction and rebellion. George Washington immediately, we're talking 1783, George Washington immediately called the army together, and in addressing them, he used this significant language. Quote, now this is taken from Marshall's Life on Washington, page 86, 87. George Washington, 1783, said, quote, "My God, what can this writer have in view by recommending such measures? Can he be a friend to the army? Can he be a friend to this country? Rather, is he not an insidious foe, some emissary perhaps from New York?" Back in 1783, George Washington knew where the trouble was.
Who's he talking about now?
I don't know. But he knew that whatever it is happening, better check in New York, because that's where the stuff is. That's where it's coming from. And then the Senate of the state of California goes on to say, it is plain that Washington believed the then center of this secret conspiracy, so far as this country was concerned, to be located in New York, and felt it to be his duty to make such a direct statement.
So you're saying that all this stuff is coming out of New York?
Yeah, New York. All this crap's coming out of New York, the Empire State. Remember? The Empire Strikes Back. Star Wars.
By the Jews?
Mm-hmm. That's it.
They spanked him. He be coward ever since.
Did they have anything to do with the Civil War?
Oh, of course they did. Big time. And you think the slaves were freed, and you think the slaves were freed after the Civil War? Don't bet on it. Slaves were made 14th Amendment citizens. 14th Amendment citizens are not citizens.
Colored people.
That's right.
Negro.
Mm-hmm.
No, colored people.
Negro ain't one owned by
another. It is recognized that May 1st as the recognition of May 1st, 1776 as the founding date of the World Revolution conspiracy is not difficult to understand when it is realized that May Day is frequently celebrated even in recent times by rioting and bloodshed on a worldwide scale. That's why in Russia and China, Communist China, the Soviet Union, and all communist countries, they always have the big celebrations and parties on May Day, because it has to do with the maypole. The maypole is the male resurrection, the male erection. It's the male symbolism, and it has to do with revolution. The book, Fire in the Minds of Men, this book traces the course of the revolutionary fate from its earliest origin in occult Freemasonry to the allegedly scientific Marxism of today. So, Fire in the Minds of Men. We've got a little more, but I'm going to stop for tonight. I'm going to let it cool off a little bit. So all this is saying is that we better wake up.
We don't have much time.
And we don't have much time.